The year is 1883, and your life begins in a modest stone house in Pradapio, Italy. The world you're entering isn't gentle or kind, it's gritty, rugged, and raw. You come kicking and screaming into existence, a tiny infant, weighing hardly more than a small melon, entirely unaware of the tumultuous future that awaits. Your father, Alessandro Mussolini, is the village blacksmith. His hands are rough and calloused, stained black from iron and soot. When he's not hammering away at his forge, he's passionately arguing about socialism, revolution, and workers' rights. Alessandro is a fierce socialist, charismatic, loud, determined. He sees injustice everywhere and rarely misses an opportunity to speak his mind. Your mother, Rosa Maltoni, is gentle but firm, the village schoolteacher. She is devoutly religious, a committed Catholic, and tries her best to instill traditional Christian values into you and your siblings. While your father dreams of revolution, your mother hopes for peace, stability, and harmony. From your first moments, you're caught between these two vastly different worlds. As an infant, you hardly notice. At 5, you start attending school in your mother's classroom. Rosie is patient but firm. Education is serious business for her, and she expects the best. Your early days in school prove challenging. You're easily bored, constantly distracted, and bursting with restless energy. While other children sit quietly, memorizing lessons obediently, you're bouncing around, disrupting class. Your mother reprimands you frequently, but your personality proves difficult to tame. As the years pass, your disruptive behavior worsens. At 7, your restless energy reaches new levels. Teachers, other than your mother, begin noticing your defiant attitude. Reports come home saying Benito is smart but uncontrollable, brilliant but wild. Your father finds this amusing, proud even. He sees a fighter, a revolutionary spirit forming in you. Your mother worries deeply. She fears you'll alienate yourself, making enemies and limiting your future. As you grow older, your parents' conflicting ideals become more pronounced in your life. Your father often takes you aside to passionately explain socialist beliefs. He teaches you that society is unjust, workers are oppressed, and powerful elites must be overthrown. His words light a fire in your young mind. Your mother, meanwhile, tries to instill in you humility, patience, and religious devotion. You're torn between two compelling yet opposite ideals, pulling you apart from within. When you're around 9 years old, a significant event leaves an imprint on you forever. A strike breaks out in your village, and your father, Alessandro, is at the forefront. You watch from a safe distance as he passionately shouts slogans demanding justice for the working class. You feel proud, inspired even. Then local police intervene, beating protesters back with clubs. Alessandro comes home that night, bruised and bloody, limping. His face swollen, eyes full of rage. He tells you this is the true cost of standing up for what's right. A vivid, brutal lesson you'll never forget. This event deeply shapes your early worldview. You begin to view society as fundamentally unfair and that real change requires struggle, sacrifice, and confrontation. You develop a combative confrontational personality, challenging authority at every opportunity, from school teachers to local priests. Conflict becomes second nature to you. You're naturally argumentative and quick-tempered, making more enemies than friends. By age 11, your behavior lands you in frequent trouble at school. Teachers are fed up, and fellow students avoid you. You've become somewhat of an outsider. This isolation fuels your bitterness. You blame others for not understanding you, for being weak, and you convince yourself that someday they'll recognize your brilliance. It's a lonely childhood, filled with conflict and turmoil. At 14, the struggle at home grows unbearable. Arguments between your parents escalate. Alessandro continues passionately advocating revolution, often clashing with Rosa's devout, conservative Catholicism. You find yourself trapped, emotionally exhausted by their fights. The friction between your parents reflects the turmoil raging inside you, between rebellion and tradition, confrontation and harmony. Frustrated, you run away multiple times, wandering for days through neighboring towns. Each time you eventually return home, exhausted, hungry, but stubbornly refusing to apologize. Your father's pride in your stubbornness only strengthens your resolve. He sees your rebellion as courage, reinforcing your defiant streak. As a teenager, your growing frustration turns physical. You engage in frequent fistfights, brawling with other young men in town. Often smaller than your opponents, you nevertheless fight fiercely, with a determination that startles older kids. You bear bruises, black eyes, split lips as badges of pride, symbols of your stubborn bravery. Though your body aches, your pride swells. At 16, despite constant discipline issues, you are recognized as exceptionally intelligent. You excel academically when motivated, quickly absorbing philosophy, history, and politics. Your teachers recognize your potential but fear your radical ideas. Privately, many educators believe you're dangerous, your brilliance matched only by your unpredictability. Your mother, desperately seeking stability for you, arranges for you to attend a Catholic boarding school, hoping strict religious instruction will correct your course. It doesn't. Instead, you rebel more fiercely, openly mocking religion, getting into trouble, expelled repeatedly from multiple schools. Eventually, your formal education ends prematurely. Traditional schooling clearly can't contain you. By 18, your childhood has been tumultuous. Years of rebellion, conflict, and isolation have defined your youth. You're fiercely intelligent, but untamed, misunderstood, and now uneducated. Your future appears uncertain, but deep inside you burns a fire. A determination, a belief that someday, somehow, you'll rise above your origins and prove yourself. You believe you'll shape history, bending the world to your will. Little do you know how dramatically true that belief will become, or the devastation your ambition will ultimately cause. This was your childhood as Benito Mussolini. By the time you're 19, you've established yourself as a stubborn, headstrong outsider. Formal education has failed to tame your wild instincts, and village life now feels suffocating. Your family is worried your mother prays nightly for your redemption, while your father quietly admires your rebellious spirit. The local townsfolk shake their heads, calling you reckless, wild, and destined for trouble. But you don't care. You've outgrown the small confines of Predapio, eager to explore the wider world. So one day you decide you've had enough and pack your bags, leaving behind the only home you've ever known. You travel to Switzerland, drawn by its reputation as a haven for political radicals, revolutionaries, and free thinkers. In your heart, you're desperate to discover your own path, one far from your parents' conflicts and the quiet judgment of your village neighbors. Your early days in Switzerland are harsh. You arrive penniless, hungry, and disoriented, wandering through foreign streets, struggling to find shelter and work. Jobs are scarce, and Swiss society isn't welcoming to young Italian drifters. You sleep in abandoned buildings, sharing spaces with other radicals and vagabonds, some dangerous, others idealistic. Many nights, you go to bed hungry, the bitter cold gnawing at your bones. Yet these hardships only harden your resolve. You believe suffering builds strength, endurance, and character. Eventually, you find odd jobs, working as a laborer on construction sites, cleaning factories, and even assisting tradesmen. The work is exhausting, dirty, and often humiliating. Bosses treat you like a disposable commodity, paying barely enough to survive. These experiences deepen your resentment toward the wealthy, the powerful, and the established classes. Injustice is everywhere, inequality blatant. You see the stark contrast between the privileged Swiss elite and the struggling foreign laborers. At the same time, you become increasingly involved with socialist circles in Switzerland. You attend gatherings in dimly lit taverns, basements, and secret meeting halls. Radical intellectuals, passionate labor organizers, and fiery revolutionaries gather to discuss politics, philosophy, and revolution. These meetings are your first real political education, far richer and more impactful than anything school offered. You eagerly soak up radical socialist ideas, reading extensively. Marx, Engels, Bakunin, you devour their words, drawing inspiration and conviction from their arguments. Soon, your powerful voice and natural charisma help you become a prominent figure in local socialist circles. People notice your intensity, confidence, and ability to stir emotions. When you speak, crowds pay attention, your words ignite their anger and passion. You're discovering your true power, your voice. Despite your growing influence, Swiss authorities become increasingly wary of your activities. You're constantly surveilled, arrested multiple times for inciting violence or disturbing the peace. Each time, you spend a few nights in jail, cold, damp, miserable cells. The conditions are brutal, but your spirit remains defiant. You see these imprisonments as badges of honor, proof you're fighting a noble cause. You emerge each time even more radicalized, more convinced of your purpose. Yet life in Switzerland continues to be precarious. Authorities eventually tire of your troublemaking, labeling you a dangerous agitator. You're forcibly expelled, deported back to Italy with nothing but the clothes on your back. But you refuse to be defeated. You return home, not in shame, but with renewed determination. Back in Italy, you're welcomed cautiously by your family, who fear what you've become. Yet your father, secretly proud, sees your struggle as heroic. He respects your courage, your willingness to suffer for your beliefs. In private, Alessandro encourages your radicalism, pushing you to continue fighting for justice. You take a teaching job in a small village school, hoping to lay low for a while, but you quickly find teaching stifling and frustrating. The students bore you, the bureaucracy annoys you, and conformity disgusts you. You're a revolutionary, not a school teacher. You start openly criticizing the education system, authority figures, and even local politicians. Predictably, you lose your job almost immediately. Realizing teaching isn't your calling, you shift your energies entirely into political agitation. You write for socialist newspapers, becoming known for your fiery confrontational style. Your articles attack capitalism, inequality, the monarchy, and the Catholic Church. Every institution that stands for tradition and authority. Readers either adore or despise you, but everyone knows your name. By now, your life has become nomadic. You're constantly traveling from city to city, Turin, Milan, Bologna, organizing socialist meetings, giving passionate speeches to thousands. You live hand to mouth, sleeping wherever there's a couch or a spare bed. Money is always scarce, your shoes are worn, your clothes ragged, but you thrive on this chaotic existence, believing struggle is necessary for revolution. Your reputation grows rapidly, and you become a prominent figure within Italy's Socialist Party. Young revolutionaries see you as a fearless leader, willing to say what others fear. Older, more moderate party members see you as reckless and dangerous. Divisions within the socialist movement begin to appear, but you refuse to compromise your principles. Then, World War I erupts and Europe descends into chaos. Italian socialists argue passionately about how to respond. Initially, you support neutrality, following socialist orthodoxy. War, you argue, only benefits the ruling classes and destroys the working class. But as the conflict intensifies, something inside you changes profoundly. You begin believing war can unify Italy, inspire nationalism, and forge a powerful identity. The Socialist Party, still passionately anti-war, sees your shift as betrayal. You argue publicly for intervention, urging Italians to join the war effort. Your speeches enrage former allies who feel you've abandoned core socialist principles. Eventually, the Socialist Party expels you, branding you a traitor. Former comrades openly call for your downfall, denouncing you bitterly. Once again, you're isolated, a political outcast. Yet you feel liberated, finally free from party orthodoxy. Determined to follow your own path, you enlist in the Italian army, eager to prove your newfound nationalist beliefs on the battlefield. War, you feel, will transform Italy and yourself, turning men into heroes and nations into legends. You're confident, idealistic, and fearless as you march toward the trenches. But war isn't glorious. Soon, you find yourself knee-deep in mud, surrounded by death and destruction. Your romantic ideals quickly evaporate amid brutal fighting, freezing winters, starvation, and constant bombardment. Friends die brutally around you, screaming for mothers they'll never see again. You're wounded badly in battle, shrapnel tearing into your body, leaving lasting scars. The brutality shakes you deeply, reshaping your ideas about strength, leadership, and sacrifice. Discharged due to your injuries, you return home physically battered, psychologically scarred, but more determined than ever. You've seen firsthand the power war holds in shaping nations. Italy is struggling, suffering from economic chaos, strikes, and bitter divisions. You see an opportunity to unite your fragmented country under powerful leadership. At 35 years old, hardened by war and political battles, you found a new political movement: fascism. Born from nationalism, strength, unity, and discipline, an ideology shaped by your life's struggles. Italians, desperate for stability, rally around your promise of restoring greatness. Your rise begins now. With each passing day, your power and influence grow, your ambition insatiable. You promise Italy glory, strength, and order. Yet lurking beneath these ideals lies danger, oppression, and violence. This was your political awakening as Benito Mussolini. Returning from war, you find your homeland broken. The Italy you fought for is consumed by chaos, economic collapse, mass unemployment, social unrest, and bitter political division. Workers strike constantly, factories close, and the government seems powerless. Italians are exhausted, angry, and desperate for someone to restore order. You sense an opportunity. Drawing from your experiences, both as a passionate socialist and as a nationalist hardened by war, you create a new political ideology: fascism. Your vision promises a strong Italy, united and disciplined under decisive leadership. You advocate order, authority, and the revival of Italy's former glory. To spread your new ideology, you start a newspaper, Il Popolo d'Italia. Your fiery writing style and bold propaganda capture the people's imagination. They resonate deeply with the masses, desperate for stability. Your newspaper becomes a megaphone, amplifying your voice nationwide. Soon, you gather followers, disgruntled war veterans, frustrated workers, and ambitious youths eager for purpose. They form the core of your growing political movement. You establish paramilitary squads known as the Black Shirts, named after their black uniforms symbolizing discipline and unity. These squads intimidate opponents, violently suppress strikes, and silence critics. Your Black Shirts storm towns and villages, crushing socialist groups and opposition parties. Violence becomes your tool, fear your currency. Yet many Italians quietly approve, seeing your actions as necessary to restore order. The government, weak and ineffective, does little to stop you. You tour Italy, delivering impassioned speeches to massive crowds. You promise greatness, unity, and prosperity. Your charisma is magnetic, your words electrifying. Italians cheer your vision, believing you alone can rescue their suffering nation. By 1922, your fascist party has grown powerful. You orchestrate the infamous March on Rome, sending tens of thousands of Black Shirts marching toward the capital demanding control. The existing government panics, fearful of civil war. King Victor Emmanuel III, desperate to avoid bloodshed, surrenders to your demands. You're appointed prime minister at just 39. Immediately, you seize total control. Democracy fades as you dismantle parliament, outlaw opposition, and silence the press. Italy becomes a one-party state under your absolute authority. Opponents are imprisoned or exiled, dissent brutally suppressed. Your grip tightens, solidifying your power. Yet ruling proves harder than you anticipated. Behind your facade of invincibility, paranoia grows. You trust no one, suspecting plots everywhere. Friends, allies, and family are potential threats. Sleepless nights become normal as fear gnaws at your mind. Your obsession with image intensifies. You meticulously stage public appearances, carefully crafting a persona of strength and decisiveness. Your speeches thunder with confidence, your posture perfect. Behind the scenes, however, you obsess endlessly over criticism, terrified of weakness or humiliation. Internationally, you forge alliances cautiously. Germany's Adolf Hitler admires your regime, seeking partnership. Initially flattered, you soon realize Hitler is unpredictable, ambitious, and dangerous. But you have little choice. Italy alone is vulnerable. Reluctantly, you form an alliance that later drags Italy into catastrophe. Under your rule, Italy modernizes rapidly. Infrastructure improves, new roads, buildings, and industries arise. Employment increases, and national pride swells. Yet beneath this facade lies brutality, censorship, and oppression. Italians live in fear, their freedoms crushed under your iron fist. As the 1930s progress, your ambitions soar higher. You dream of empire, seeking to restore Rome's ancient greatness. You invade Ethiopia in 1935, using brutal tactics and chemical weapons. International condemnation follows, but you ignore criticism, convinced of your destiny. Your ego inflates dangerously. You begin believing yourself invincible, ignoring advice and warnings. Critics disappear silently, replaced by sycophants who feed your vanity. Reality becomes distorted, truth blurred by propaganda. Your isolation deepens as advisors fear telling uncomfortable truths. Then World War II erupts. Initially hesitant, you join Hitler's war, confident in swift victory. Instead, Italy faces disaster. Your ill-prepared armies suffer humiliating defeats. Public support wanes rapidly as bombings devastate cities and food shortages worsen. Your carefully constructed image begins crumbling. By 1943, Italy is collapsing. Allies invade from the south, and disillusioned, Italians turn against you. Even trusted generals plot betrayal. You're arrested, imprisoned, and humiliated. Overnight, you fall from absolute ruler to broken prisoner. Yet the drama isn't finished. Hitler rescues you, installing you as a puppet leader in northern Italy. But you're now powerless, a mere shadow controlled by Germany. Each day brings deeper humiliation as your country suffers. In April 1945, Allied forces close in. Desperate, you attempt fleeing to safety but are captured by partisans, former subjects you've oppressed. Justice is swift and brutal. You're executed mercilessly, your body displayed publicly as a grim warning. Your life, once filled with power, ambition, and pride, ends in disgrace and tragedy. Your legacy is haunting, a testament to unchecked ambition, authoritarian cruelty, and devastating failure. This was your rise to power as Benito Mussolini. At the height of your rule, Italy stands in awe of your power. Your face gazes from every wall, statue, and poster across the nation. Your voice reverberates through every street, carried by radios, loudspeakers, and mass rallies. To millions, you are no longer just Benito Mussolini, you are El Duce, the embodiment of Italy itself, strong and invincible. Yet beneath the facade, hidden anxieties fester. You've created an Italy where opposition no longer exists, or so it seems. Your fascist party is supreme, with all others outlawed. Parliament, once a place of debate, now merely echoes your decrees. You dominate education, ensuring children learn your doctrine from the earliest age. Young boys join youth groups where they're taught discipline, loyalty, and obedience to you alone. Girls learn that their highest calling is motherhood, producing the soldiers of tomorrow. You delight in staging immense public spectacles designed to reinforce your authority. Rome regularly fills with thousands of uniformed black shirts, their synchronized salutes echoing through the grand plazas. Parades showcase your growing military might, tanks rolling past cheering citizens, waving Italian flags, and portraits of you. Propaganda films depict you heroically leading Italy toward its glorious destiny. You revel in these moments, feeling validated, invincible, even immortal. Yet despite your power, peace of mind remains elusive. Paranoia grows within you. Every shadow becomes a potential assassin, every whispered conversation a conspiracy. Trusted advisors find themselves under suspicion for the slightest perceived betrayal. Your security tightens and your circle shrinks. Friends fade, replaced by sycophants who shower you with praise but offer no genuine loyalty. Isolation creeps in, tightening around you like a noose. Economically, cracks are widening beneath the polished surface. Your aggressive policies, designed for rapid industrialization and agricultural self-sufficiency, begin to falter. Initially, Italians celebrated the expansion of factories, roads, and railways, but reality soon exposes the flaws. Resources are scarce, corruption rampant, and bureaucracy bloated. The cost of maintaining your military ambitions drains funds needed elsewhere. Soon, ordinary citizens feel the squeeze of rising prices and shortages. On the international stage, your arrogance leads to reckless choices. Obsessed with restoring Roman greatness, you embark on aggressive military campaigns, beginning with Ethiopia in 1935. The invasion succeeds swiftly, but your forces resort to horrific tactics, including chemical warfare. The global community reacts with outrage. Sanctions follow, but you brush aside criticism, intoxicated by triumph. Meanwhile, your alliance with Adolf Hitler deepens. Initially, you see him as a useful ally, perhaps even a junior partner, admiring how Germany rebuilt itself after World War I. But increasingly, the relationship tilts, with Hitler dictating terms. You find yourself drawn into his ambitions, constrained by the pact you've made. In 1939, Germany invades Poland, igniting World War II. Initially, you hesitate, realizing Italy isn't prepared for war, but pressure mounts, pride takes hold, and in June 1940, you impulsively declare war, confident in quick victory alongside Germany. Crowds initially cheer your decision, swayed by propaganda and dreams of empire, but optimism quickly fades as reality sets in. Your military proves disastrously unprepared. Troops lack proper equipment, training, and leadership. Early campaigns in North Africa expose Italy's vulnerabilities. British forces rout your troops repeatedly, forcing humiliating retreats. Italy's navy, essential for Mediterranean dominance, suffers significant defeats at sea, severely damaging morale. News of setbacks reaches home, eroding your carefully maintained image of invincibility. In October 1940, you impulsively invade Greece, confident of swift conquest. Instead, it becomes one of your greatest humiliations. Greek resistance proves fierce, inflicting heavy casualties. Your soldiers falter in freezing conditions, lacking supplies and support. You reluctantly beg Hitler for assistance, further diminishing your reputation. German intervention rescues your army, but at the cost of Italy's dignity and independence. As the war drags on, public support wanes. Families receive endless notices of loved ones lost or captured. Bombs rain down on Italian cities, destroying homes and livelihoods. Food shortages worsen, rationing tightens, and suffering grows widespread. Italians now openly question your decisions, blaming your arrogance for their misery. Yet you stubbornly ignore reality, refusing to accept responsibility. Propaganda becomes desperate, emphasizing imaginary victories. Truth is censored, critics silenced, fear permeates Italy as citizens whisper their complaints, fearful of arrest or worse. You cling desperately to power, unwilling to see your dream collapsing around you. By 1943, Italy teeters on collapse. Allied forces land in Sicily, swiftly capturing territory. Your military leaders lose faith, believing defeat inevitable. Even your closest allies begin plotting your removal, hoping to save Italy from total ruin. You sense betrayal, but remain powerless to stop it. In July 1943, your fascist Grand Council meets in secrecy, casting a vote of no confidence. You're stunned by their betrayal. Within hours, King Victor Emmanuel III summons you, stripping you of power and placing you under arrest. Your rapid fall shocks even your staunchest supporters. Imprisoned, humiliated, and alone, you face a reality you never imagined possible. But your story isn't finished yet. Hitler intervenes dramatically, ordering German commandos to rescue you from captivity. Freed, but now entirely dependent on Hitler's whims, you're installed as the puppet leader of a German-controlled state in northern Italy. Your power is gone, your dignity shattered. You spend your days isolated, painfully aware of your irrelevance. In your final months, your world crumbles further. Resistance fighters rise against your regime, violently targeting your remaining loyalists. Germany's fortunes decline rapidly, and you know defeat is imminent. Paranoia consumes you entirely as you shuffle between hideouts, always fearful of capture or assassination. Sleepless nights torment you, haunted by memories of past glory and current humiliation. In April 1945, Allied forces advance relentlessly, forcing you into desperate flight toward the Swiss border. Captured by Italian partisans, former subjects you've oppressed, justice arrives swiftly and mercilessly. Without trial, you're executed alongside your mistress, Clara Petacci. Your bodies are publicly displayed in Milan, a grim spectacle symbolizing the bitter end of your regime. Your life, once defined by ambition, charisma, and ruthless power, concludes in disgrace. Your nation lies in ruins, scarred by your rule. History remembers you as a warning, a powerful symbol of ambition corrupted by ego and brutality, a cautionary tale of absolute power's tragic consequences. This was your peak of power and the beginning of your downfall as Benito Mussolini. The end approaches rapidly, and deep down, you know it. The country you once controlled absolutely is now tearing itself apart, engulfed in chaos and civil strife. You're no longer the all-powerful Il Duce, but a shadow, hiding in small towns and remote hideouts, fearful and haunted by the failures you've accumulated. Your dreams of a powerful, respected Italy are now ashes scattered by war, defeat, and humiliation. In the northern regions, you rule only in name. German forces control every aspect of governance, leaving you powerless, little more than Hitler's puppet. You watch helplessly as your country suffers brutal occupation, mass deportations, and widespread resistance. The reality of your situation eats away at your mind. You're neither in command nor capable of changing Italy's grim fate. Yet you stubbornly cling to illusions, issuing desperate propaganda broadcasts urging Italians to fight to the bitter end. But your words fall on deaf ears. The public long ago lost faith in your promises. Families mourn countless deaths and starve through food shortages. Villages lie in ruins from relentless Allied bombing. All blame points squarely at you, yet you refuse to fully acknowledge your responsibility. Your inner circle rapidly shrinks, now consisting mainly of die-hard loyalists clinging to fading ideals or opportunists seeking to exploit your diminished power. Trust erodes completely. Conversations become short and paranoid, each interaction filled with unspoken suspicion. You're haunted by the knowledge that even your closest advisors plot against you, secretly negotiating with enemies or planning their escapes. By early 1945, the Allies advance relentlessly, liberating city after city, steadily moving northward. Resistance fighters rise boldly, emboldened by Allied successes. Attacks against your regime intensify, and the region erupts in chaos. You're forced to change locations constantly, staying one step ahead of capture. Life is reduced to a bleak existence of hiding, paranoia, and growing despair. In April 1945, news arrives that Allied forces are nearing Milan. You understand clearly what this means. The final collapse is imminent. You desperately plan your escape, aiming for the safety of neutral Switzerland. Gathering what remains of your possessions and accompanied by a handful of followers, including Clara Petacci, your devoted mistress, you head northward, hoping to slip quietly over the border. The journey is tense and exhausting. Roads overflow with refugees fleeing advancing armies, panic spreading like wildfire. You disguise yourself poorly, trying desperately to avoid recognition, yet fearful eyes still follow your every move. News spreads rapidly, Mussolini is fleeing. Allies and resistance fighters intensify their pursuit, determined to bring you to justice. On April 27, 1945, you and your small convoy are halted by partisan forces near the village of Dongo. Their recognition is immediate. Terrified, yet attempting bravado, you try negotiating. Promises, threats, and pleas tumble out chaotically. The partisans remain unmoved. You're arrested and detained, your heart sinking with dread. You finally run out of options. The next day, the decision is swift and final: execution. There's no trial, no opportunity for defense. You're transported to a quiet village nearby and lined up against a stone wall. The cold muzzle of a gun presses against your chest. You close your eyes, briefly reflecting on your life, ambition, pride, violence, power, tragedy. A sudden burst, sharp and loud, and darkness overtakes you instantly. Benito Mussolini, Il Duce, is no more. Your body, alongside Clara Petacci's and several loyalists, is transported to Milan. Displayed publicly in Piazzale Loreto, the very site where you'd once executed anti-fascist partisans, your corpse is hung upside down from a steel beam. Crowds gather, jeering, spitting, and hurling objects. Your body is beaten and mutilated, an outlet for years of suppressed rage. Photographs of the scene spread globally, forever etching your end into history's memory as a stark, brutal warning. But your death isn't the end of your legacy. Italy, scarred and divided by your rule, struggles for decades to heal. Your ideology, fascism, remains synonymous with brutality, oppression, and catastrophic ambition. For generations, Italians grapple with collective shame, pain, and memories of those lost under your regime. Your name, once worshipped, becomes reviled, a reminder of humanity's darkest potential. Yet even in death, controversy surrounds you. Supporters quietly mourn your demise, maintaining devotion to your ideals. Neo-fascist groups emerge over time, romanticizing your rule, attempting to rewrite history. Your gravesite in Predapio becomes a pilgrimage destination for die-hard loyalists, creating ongoing tensions within Italian society. Historians fiercely debate your life and impact. Some recognize your early successes, modernization, infrastructure projects, initial economic improvements. Others emphasize your brutality, oppression, reckless militarism, and ultimately disastrous alliance with Hitler. Scholarly arguments continue endlessly, dissecting your complex legacy, forever trying to fully comprehend the contradictions of Benito Mussolini. Your life, from humble beginnings in Predapio to ruthless dictator ruling over millions, is a profound study of ambition, pride, arrogance, and devastating failure. The story of your rise and fall serves as a potent cautionary tale, illustrating the dangers inherent in unchecked power, extreme nationalism, and charismatic demagoguery. Italy, though deeply wounded, slowly rebuilds. Democracy returns, freedoms are restored, and healing gradually begins. Yet your shadow looms, an ever-present reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty, authoritarianism, and self-destruction. In the end, Benito Mussolini is remembered as both architect and destroyer, one who shaped history profoundly, yet left behind pain, division, and bitter lessons never forgotten. Your life and death teach the world harsh truths about the price of absolute power and the devastating consequences when nations surrender blindly to charismatic leaders. This was your tragic legacy as Benito Mussolini. Yet troublingly, your ideals persist in hidden corners. Neo-fascist groups emerge, driven by nostalgia for your supposed strength and order. Small pockets of supporters continue revering your memory, attempting to sanitize your history and deny the brutal realities of your rule. Periodically, these groups gain brief political traction, reminding society of democracy's fragility and the importance of vigilance. Your birthplace, Predapio, becomes a complex site of pilgrimage. Some visit to understand history, confronting the realities of your regime's cruelty. Others arrive to pay tribute, unsettling reminders that your ideology still holds allure for a troubling minority. The debate around your birthplace symbolizes Italy's ongoing struggle with your complicated legacy. Your family suffers profoundly after your death. Clara Petacci, executed alongside you, becomes a tragic footnote in history. Your children live forever burdened by their father's crimes, carrying shame and stigma. Generations of Mussolinis grapple with your shadow, trying desperately to separate themselves from your deeds while coping with society's judgment. Your political philosophy, fascism, remains forever linked with authoritarian brutality and human suffering. Globally, fascism symbolizes oppression, fear, and the suppression of individual liberties. Your actions help ensure that societies worldwide instinctively recoil from the idea of dictatorship, reinforcing democratic values and underscoring the necessity of human rights. Art and literature reflect endlessly on your rule, capturing the complexities and contradictions of your character. Films, novels, and historical accounts dissect your rise and fall meticulously, helping future generations comprehend the dangerous allure of charismatic leadership and the devastating consequences of nationalism unchecked by compassion or morality. Your death isn't the end. The reverberations of your regime and its violent collapse continue to ripple across the globe, leaving scars and lessons that echo loudly through history. In death, you're transformed from a powerful ruler into a symbol of tyranny, ambition, tragedy, and the devastating costs of unchecked power. In the immediate aftermath, Italy struggles to rebuild from the ruins left by your regime. The war has devastated the economy, destroyed infrastructure, and torn families apart. Italians face years of poverty, hunger, and bitterness. Millions grapple with the trauma of lost loved ones, shattered lives, and profound shame. Your memory is not celebrated, it's a burden. Yet, even as Italy tries to forget, the world remembers vividly. Your alliance with Hitler, sealed in violence and shared ambition, helped plunge Europe into its darkest years. World War II cost tens of millions of lives, and your reckless decisions played a crucial role in fueling that catastrophic conflict. Historians dissect your actions relentlessly, examining how a charismatic leader like you could so effectively manipulate an entire nation. Internationally, your legacy shapes politics profoundly. The world emerges from the devastation of war, determined never to allow another dictator like you to rise again. Institutions like the United Nations form explicitly to prevent tyranny and promote human rights. Democracies worldwide strengthen safeguards, determined to ensure freedoms cannot again be dismantled so swiftly and ruthlessly. Philosophers, historians, and political scientists study your regime intensely, analyzing how you gained and maintained power through propaganda, violence, and manipulation. Your methods, controlling media, suppressing dissent, promoting ultranationalism, become textbook examples of totalitarianism. Students worldwide learn your story not as one of triumph, but as a chilling warning of power's dangers. Italy itself engages in profound self-reflection after your death. Debates rage over collective guilt, responsibility, and complicity in fascism's rise. Citizens wrestle with difficult truths, confronting painful memories of collaboration and apathy. Slowly, Italian society evolves, recommitting itself to democracy, openness, and pluralism, determined never to repeat your devastating path. In schools worldwide, students learn your name as a stark lesson in history. Educators emphasize vigilance against authoritarian tendencies, teaching critical thinking, democratic values, and the importance of resisting demagoguery. Your life serves as a powerful educational tool, demonstrating precisely what happens when societies abandon reason and humanity in favor of blind devotion and fear-based governance. Perhaps the most enduring legacy you leave behind is caution. The world has witnessed, through your life, how ambition can become destructive when unchecked, how charismatic leaders can manipulate societies into catastrophe, and how easily freedoms are lost when citizens remain apathetic or complacent. Your story compels humanity to remain alert, informed, and engaged, eternally vigilant against the resurgence of oppressive ideologies. Ultimately, Benito Mussolini, your impact is complex, contradictory, and deeply troubling. You're remembered not as a hero, but as a cautionary tale, an eternal reminder of humanity's potential for darkness. Your life's lessons resonate across generations, reinforcing the critical importance of democracy, human rights, compassion, and education. This was your profound historical impact and the enduring lessons learned from your life as Benito Mussolini. Decades after your death, your name still evokes powerful emotions. You remain a divisive, controversial figure whose life continues to provoke reflection, debate, and introspection around the world. Your shadow lingers not merely as a historical footnote, but as a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty, authoritarianism, and self-deception. In modern Italy, your legacy remains a source of discomfort. Many citizens prefer forgetting, focusing on Italy's vibrant culture, democratic traditions, and rich heritage that existed before and after your rule. Yet you're impossible to erase entirely. Statues, monuments, and symbols from your regime still dot the country, often quietly removed or recontextualized to educate rather than glorify. Predapio, your birthplace, remains a contentious landmark visited by historians, tourists, and neo-fascists alike, reflecting Italy's ongoing struggle with your legacy. Politically, your ideology still surfaces periodically, stirring controversy and fear. Occasionally, fringe groups emerge, seeking power by exploiting economic anxieties, nationalism, and populist rhetoric reminiscent of your rise. Politicians worldwide reference your example to warn citizens about the dangers of authoritarian leadership, propaganda, and the erosion of democratic institutions. Your story provides endless lessons about vigilance, caution, and protecting freedoms. Educational institutions around the globe dissect your rise meticulously, teaching students the importance of democracy, critical thinking, and resisting demagoguery. Your life's cautionary tale underscores precisely what occurs when power concentrates unchecked in one individual's hands. Educators use your history to remind younger generations that democracy requires active, engaged citizens committed to protecting liberties and resisting oppression. Your relationship with Hitler, in particular, remains a powerful historical warning. Scholars examine your alliance repeatedly, illustrating the dangers of political expediency, unchecked nationalism, and moral compromise. Your example demonstrates clearly how leaders who sacrifice values for temporary gains ultimately suffer catastrophic consequences. Historians emphasize your partnership's devastating outcomes, hoping future leaders learn to prioritize moral integrity over short-term political ambition. In popular culture, your life continues inspiring movies, documentaries, novels, and artistic reflections. Some depict you as a monstrous tyrant, others as a tragic figure undone by ambition and pride. These portrayals further complicate your legacy, ensuring public fascination remains alive. Yet overwhelmingly, these reflections carry a sobering message: absolute power corrupts absolutely, destroying individuals, families, and entire nations. Psychologists and sociologists also analyze your behavior intensely. Studies explore how your personality traits, narcissism, insecurity, paranoia, contributed to your authoritarian rule. Researchers discuss how your charisma manipulated millions, underscoring human vulnerability to persuasive leadership, especially during periods of crisis. Your psychological profile helps society understand the dangerous appeal charismatic dictators possess, further emphasizing the need for skepticism, education, and critical thought. Italy's recovery and modern democratic identity remain deeply influenced by your brutal regime. The country embraces democracy, pluralism, and tolerance, explicitly rejecting fascism's oppressive values. Your atrocities and Italy's subsequent collective guilt compel Italian society toward human rights advocacy, democratic education, and vigilance against political extremism. Your regime's harsh memories continually reinforce Italy's commitment to protecting freedoms and human dignity. Globally, your legacy manifests in numerous human rights institutions formed explicitly to prevent future dictatorships. International organizations regularly cite your rule as justification for strengthening democratic institutions, protecting freedom of speech, and combating propaganda. Your life provides compelling arguments supporting international cooperation, global accountability, and universal respect for human dignity. In recent years, increased global populism has reignited debates about your historical significance. Political analysts regularly draw parallels between contemporary populist leaders and your rise, emphasizing similar tactics: ultranationalism, propaganda, scapegoating minorities, and undermining democratic institutions. Discussions about your regime remind citizens worldwide of democracy's fragility and the necessity of civic engagement, vigilance, and political accountability. Even your personal descendants grapple continually with your complicated legacy. Family members publicly renounce your actions, distancing themselves from your crimes while advocating democratic values, peace, and tolerance. Your descendants endure societal stigma and scrutiny, constantly forced to define themselves separately from your horrific legacy. Their experiences symbolize the lingering pain and shame authoritarian rulers inflict upon future generations. Your regime's victims, those persecuted, exiled, imprisoned, or executed, are commemorated through memorials, museums, and educational programs worldwide. These efforts honor victims' memories while reinforcing societal determination never to allow similar atrocities. Your actions, studied carefully, help foster empathy, compassion, and global solidarity against oppression. Ultimately, Benito Mussolini, your modern legacy, remains profoundly complex and troubling. You're remembered not for greatness, but as a vivid cautionary tale about humanity's darkest potential. Your life compels continuous reflection, vigilance, and dedication to protecting democratic values, human rights, and moral integrity. While your rule brought immense suffering, your legacy drives societies toward greater empathy, critical thinking, and democratic resilience. Long after your regime ended, the world remains fascinated and deeply unsettled by your story. Modern leaders and movements frequently draw comparisons to your rise and fall, serving as warnings about the persistent dangers of authoritarianism, nationalism, and unchecked ambition. Your life, it turns out, is more relevant now than ever. In contemporary politics, the echoes of your tactics reverberate. Political scientists often reference your approach to governance, propaganda, suppression of the press, cultivating a cult of personality as benchmarks of authoritarianism. Modern populist leaders worldwide have been compared to you, accused of employing similar strategies to consolidate power, stifle dissent, and erode democratic institutions. The world continually watches, wary of repeating your history. Politicians and activists frequently invoke your name to caution against nationalist rhetoric that divides societies, promotes xenophobia, and fuels hatred. Your use of ultranationalism to justify oppression, military aggression, and racial superiority serves as a chilling historical reminder. Contemporary debates around immigration, multiculturalism, and national identity often draw parallels to your regime, highlighting the urgent need for tolerance and inclusive democracy. The global rise of misinformation and propaganda, amplified by modern technologies, makes your story particularly relevant. Your regime expertly manipulated information, controlling narratives to maintain power. Today, misinformation spreads rapidly online, polarizing societies, undermining trust, and destabilizing democracies worldwide. Historians and media scholars repeatedly reference your regime as a warning about propaganda's dangers, underscoring the necessity for media literacy, fact-based journalism, and critical thinking. Your alliance with Hitler remains a powerful cautionary example for contemporary international politics. Scholars warn modern leaders about forming morally compromised alliances for short-term gains, pointing explicitly to your disastrous partnership with Germany. Your story illustrates starkly how compromising moral integrity for political convenience often leads nations into catastrophe, emphasizing the importance of principled foreign policy decisions. In education, your life is continuously examined as a textbook case of authoritarianism's psychological dynamics. Schools worldwide teach students to identify authoritarian characteristics, propaganda use, suppression of criticism, cults of personality through detailed studies of your regime. Educators emphasize your story as critical evidence, demonstrating how easily democracies can deteriorate into dictatorships without active, informed, and engaged citizenry. Your economic policies also hold contemporary relevance. While initially successful in infrastructure projects and employment, your regime ultimately collapsed under corruption, inefficiency, and aggressive militarism. Modern economists and policy analysts reference your economic failures when discussing the dangers of centralized control, excessive militarization, and reckless spending. Your economic legacy highlights the necessity of transparency, accountability, and responsible fiscal governance. Contemporary cultural discussions frequently reference your manipulation of arts and media to reinforce authoritarian control. Today, governments attempting to suppress creative expression face immediate comparisons to your regime. Artists and journalists worldwide invoke your example to highlight the importance of artistic freedom, journalistic integrity, and protecting diverse voices from authoritarian censorship. Human rights organizations constantly invoke your legacy when addressing contemporary authoritarian abuses worldwide. Global awareness about oppression, censorship, political imprisonment, and propaganda often explicitly references your regime as an illustrative example of authoritarianism's cruelty. Activists fighting contemporary authoritarian regimes cite your life and actions to illustrate oppression's consequences, mobilizing global empathy and activism. Pop culture continues revisiting your life, often as cautionary tales in movies, literature, and theater. Contemporary works frequently parallel modern political figures to your story, encouraging audiences to critically examine today's leaders and movements. These portrayals maintain public awareness about the dangers of charismatic leadership, extreme nationalism, and unchecked power. Environmental activists also reference your regime when highlighting dangers of prioritizing aggressive industrialization and militarization over environmental responsibility. Your disregard for sustainable resource use, environmental protection, and long-term ecological health remains a powerful historical example cited by modern environmentalists advocating responsible stewardship. Psychologists continually study your personality traits, narcissism, paranoia, insecurity to analyze authoritarian leaders' behaviors worldwide. Your psychological profile helps explain why individuals become authoritarian rulers, manipulating populations through charisma, fear, and division. Modern psychological research frequently uses your example to highlight authoritarian authoritarian leaders' characteristics, assisting societies in identifying and preventing authoritarian tendencies. Your rule's societal impact remains relevant as contemporary societies struggle with collective guilt, responsibility, and reconciliation after authoritarian regimes. Nations transitioning from oppressive governments reference Italy's recovery from your regime when designing reconciliation processes, educational programs, and democratic rebuilding efforts. Your legacy assists global efforts toward healing, rebuilding democratic institutions, and fostering reconciliation. Your rise and fall holds significant contemporary relevance in understanding populist movements. Political analysts repeatedly reference your story to highlight populism's appeal, tactics, and dangers, emphasizing the critical importance of responsible governance, institutional checks, and democratic resilience. Your history remains a vital educational tool, warning societies about populism's seductive promises, manipulation techniques, and destructive outcomes. Ultimately, your legacy continues provoking intense reflection worldwide, underscoring humanity's potential for both cruelty and compassion, oppression and freedom. Your life's persistent relevance demonstrates history's enduring lessons and modern society's responsibility in protecting democratic values, human rights, and moral integrity. Benito Mussolini, your story remains a crucial, timeless cautionary tale, a stark reminder of authoritarianism's dangers, democracy's fragility, and citizens' essential role in preserving freedom. At the core of your rise and fall lies a complex human story, one filled with contradictions, internal struggles, and psychological complexities that continue to fascinate scholars. Examining your personality provides deep insights into the mindset of authoritarian leaders, the allure of power, and the human capacity for both greatness and darkness. From your earliest years, your life was defined by conflict. Born to parents who clashed deeply, your father's radical socialism and your mother's conservative religious beliefs, you learned early to navigate contradictory worlds. This internal tension profoundly shaped your character, making you simultaneously rebellious and obedient, charismatic yet deeply insecure. Your childhood struggles profoundly impacted your adult behavior. Growing up in poverty, you developed an intense desire for power, respect, and validation. You sought admiration desperately, craving the attention and applause denied in your youth. Psychologists studying your life describe your relentless drive for dominance as a compensatory mechanism, a desperate attempt to fill emotional voids left by early neglect, rejection, and instability. Your repeated expulsions from school and difficulties maintaining stable employment reflect deeper psychological patterns. Your behavior consistently demonstrated defiance against authority figures, possibly rooted in deep-seated resentment toward your father's harsh discipline or rejection by peers. Each rebellious act, psychologists suggest, represented an attempt to reclaim control over your chaotic internal world and external circumstances. As you transitioned into adulthood, your psychological complexity intensified. Your charisma, a critical tool enabling your rise, stemmed from a profound understanding of people's vulnerabilities and desires. You masterfully manipulated emotions, offering hope, stability, and identity to a society struggling with economic collapse and social disorder. Your ability to exploit fear, anger, and desperation reveals disturbing psychological insight and deep emotional intelligence, traits common among authoritarian leaders. Your obsession with appearance and public image indicates profound insecurity. Meticulously crafted public displays, carefully posed photographs, and tightly controlled propaganda masked intense feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. Historians and psychologists observe that your constant need for public approval and validation served as protection against profound inner emptiness and self-doubt. The extravagant pageantry of your regime served not only political but deeply personal psychological purposes. Your increasing paranoia as your power grew offers critical insights into authoritarian leaders' psychological deterioration. Trusting no one, suspecting betrayal constantly, and obsessively surveilling subordinates are classic symptoms of paranoia and narcissism. Experts suggest your isolation amplified your anxiety, causing deteriorating judgment and increasingly reckless decisions. Your descent into paranoia underscores the psychological dangers inherent in absolute power, isolation, and constant fear. Your relationships, both personal and political, were complex and deeply troubled. Your marriage, marked by infidelity, emotional distance, and neglect, reflects deep-seated emotional issues and inability to form genuine emotional bonds. Your long-term affair with Clara Petacci, a relationship filled with emotional dependency and intense possessiveness, reveals significant psychological vulnerability. Experts interpret these dynamics as desperate attempts to find emotional intimacy and validation absent from your early life, further illustrating your profound insecurities. Your relationship with Adolf Hitler offers additional psychological insight. Initially viewing Hitler as a junior partner, you became increasingly subordinate, manipulated by his more dominant personality. Psychologists analyze this dynamic as reflective of your deep-seated insecurity, your eagerness for approval from powerful figures overriding judgment, self-respect, and rational decision-making. Your disastrous alliance demonstrates clearly how your insecurities ultimately undermined your leadership abilities and contributed significantly to Italy's downfall. Your regime's violence and brutal suppression of dissent reflect troubling psychological characteristics, including cruelty, indifference to suffering, and a profound lack of empathy. Historians document your personal authorization of imprisonments, executions, and brutal punishments, indicating emotional detachment and moral disengagement. Psychologists consider your behavior indicative of narcissistic and antisocial tendencies common among authoritarian leaders, traits enabling extreme cruelty and oppression. Yet your story is also marked by human tragedy. Your ambitions, initially rooted in genuine desire to improve Italy, became twisted by power, ego, and emotional dysfunction. Your increasingly reckless decisions, driven by insecurity and paranoia, resulted in catastrophic consequences for millions. The profound tragedy of your life lies not merely in your brutality, but in the wasted potential. The intelligence, charisma, and leadership abilities squandered by unchecked ambition and psychological vulnerabilities. Your psychological complexities serve as crucial educational tools, helping societies understand authoritarianism's human dimensions. Educators, historians, and psychologists study your life extensively, teaching citizens to recognize dangerous leadership traits, charisma masking insecurity, ambition distorted by ego, intelligence undermined by paranoia. Your story emphasizes the importance of psychological awareness, emotional intelligence, and empathy in effective, responsible leadership. Modern psychological research utilizes your life extensively, analyzing authoritarian leaders' psychological patterns worldwide. Your personality profile, marked by charisma, ambition, narcissism, paranoia, and profound emotional insecurity, helps experts identify authoritarian characteristics, assisting societies in preventing dictatorships. Your psychological insights underscore the importance of mental health awareness, emotional intelligence, and critical reflection in leadership roles. Ultimately, Benito Mussolini, your life's profound psychological insights compel continuous reflection worldwide, emphasizing humanity's potential for both greatness and darkness. Your story illustrates vividly how unchecked psychological dysfunction, rooted in insecurity, ambition, paranoia, and lack of empathy, can devastate entire nations. Your life serves as a critical reminder of leadership's psychological responsibilities and the importance of compassion, humility, and moral integrity. Your journey from a humble child in Predapio to the feared dictator known worldwide as Il Duce captures humanity's most powerful and troubling truths. The life you led, filled with triumph and tragedy, ambition and downfall, power and humiliation, offers enduring lessons for all generations, serving as a cautionary tale that remains deeply relevant today. In the end, your legacy is not about glory or triumph. It's about the catastrophic consequences that arise when power is allowed to dominate reason, compassion, and morality. Your life demonstrates vividly how unchecked ambition, coupled with insecurity and ruthless ego, can plunge entire nations into darkness. It's a stark reminder of democracy's fragility and the vital role each citizen plays in protecting freedom. Your story also highlights the critical responsibility of leadership. True leaders serve their people, prioritizing compassion, wisdom, and humility over ego, pride, and personal gain. Your disastrous reign underscores the immense dangers inherent when leaders sacrifice morality for political expediency, choose arrogance over empathy, and suppress truth to maintain power. Your rise and fall illuminate the seductive nature of power itself. Initially driven by genuine beliefs, your ideals rapidly eroded under absolute authority's corrupting influence. History repeatedly demonstrates how power, when concentrated excessively, inevitably leads to corruption, cruelty, and oppression. Your life offers a profound warning: power without accountability inevitably leads to tragedy. Societies worldwide study your regime to understand authoritarianism's mechanics, examining how charismatic leaders exploit fear, anger, and desperation to seize control. Your story reveals the essential role propaganda, censorship, and misinformation play in authoritarian rule, emphasizing the critical importance of independent media, free speech, and educated citizenry in protecting democracy. The consequences of your decisions, violence, suppression, war, demonstrate vividly how easily societies fracture under authoritarian governance. Your life serves serves as a powerful educational tool, teaching students worldwide to recognize and resist authoritarian characteristics. Your regime provides clear evidence of what happens when democratic safeguards collapse, underscoring the necessity of civic engagement, vigilance, and collective responsibility in maintaining democratic institutions. Your catastrophic alliance with Adolf Hitler remains particularly instructive. Historians and politicians continually reference your tragic partnership, highlighting the dangers of political opportunism, moral compromise, and unchecked nationalism. Your story emphasizes that principled decision-making and moral integrity must guide international relationships, safeguarding nations from devastating consequences. Psychologically, your life's profound insights reveal critical truths about leadership. Your profound insecurities, paranoia, and narcissism illustrate how dangerous emotionally dysfunctional leaders become when wielding absolute power. Modern psychological research underscores the importance of mental health, emotional intelligence, and psychological stability in leadership roles, using your example as an essential case study. Your regime's profound human cost, millions suffering oppression, violence, poverty, and war, illustrates authoritarianism's devastating consequences. Human rights organizations worldwide reference your atrocities, emphasizing international cooperation, accountability, and vigilance against oppression. Your life's brutal outcomes reinforce the global commitment to human rights, compassion, and empathy. Your enduring legacy, paradoxically, inspires democracies worldwide toward greater vigilance and resilience. Your cautionary tale motivates citizens to engage actively in protecting democratic values, human dignity, and freedom. Your life's lessons profoundly underscore the crucial responsibilities citizens carry in defending their societies from authoritarian threats. Ultimately, Benito Mussolini, your story endures as a haunting, powerful reminder of humanity's potential for both greatness and darkness. Your life vividly illustrates ambition's dangers when unchecked by compassion, humility, and morality. Your legacy compels continuous reflection, vigilance, and dedication to democracy, human rights, and responsible governance. Your history remains forever etched into global consciousness, serving as an eternal warning about authoritarianism's allure and devastating consequences. The world remembers your rise and fall, committed to ensuring such tragedies never occur again. Your life offers profound insights, vital lessons, and lasting inspiration toward a more compassionate, responsible, and democratic future. This was your final reflection, your life's enduring message, a timeless, powerful reminder of humanity's critical responsibility in protecting freedom, democracy, and human dignity, drawn from your tragic journey as Benito Mussolini. The moment you first draw breath, your lungs fill with cool air from forests untouched by Rome. The year is around 30 CE, and you're born into the Iceni, a proud and fierce Celtic tribe living freely in the windswept lands that will one day be known as Britain. You enter the world surrounded by towering oaks, whispering leaves, and elders who speak in low tones of bravery, honor, and independence. Your childhood isn't filled with comforts or luxuries. You don't wear silk or jewels like the Romans you'll one day confront. Instead, you grow up running barefoot through tall grass, learning early the ways of the warrior and the voice of the land. Your mother teaches you how to read the stars, track animals, and respect nature's strength. Your father, a respected warrior, instills in you courage, pride, and a fierce devotion to your tribe. You learn to ride horses almost before you can walk, laughing wildly as you race across fields and meadows, feeling the power of nature beneath your fingers. You practice with wooden spears and swords, learning to fight, to defend, to protect what is yours. You're not raised as a princess waiting to be saved, you're raised as a warrior, fierce and proud. Even as a child, elders notice your fire, your defiance, your strength. But this life of freedom and independence exists under a constant shadow. Rome, the empire, has invaded Britain, conquering lands to the south, pressing steadily northward, devouring everything in its path. At night, around the fires, elders tell stories of Roman cruelty, of armies that destroy tribes, crush freedoms, and enslave survivors. They speak of resistances crushed, cultures wiped out, traditions forgotten beneath Roman boots. Your tribe, the Iceni, has managed an uneasy peace. Your father and the other chiefs negotiate carefully, knowing that one wrong word could provoke Roman legions into the heart of your land. As you grow older, you see more clearly the price of peace. It's submission, tribute, humiliation. Rome lets you keep your traditions for now, but demands taxes, obedience, and, worst of all, your pride. You marry young, as is custom. Your husband, Prasutagus, is king of the Iceni, a strong leader, wise in the ways of diplomacy and war. Together, you rule as equals. He respects your strength, your voice, your wisdom. You have 2 daughters, precious and fierce, whom you raise as warriors and scholars, teaching them everything you know: freedom, courage, dignity. You watch them grow, proud and defiant, knowing they too will one day have to confront the world's cruelty. For a time, life settles into uneasy balance. Your people farm their lands, honor their gods, and keep careful distance from the Roman settlements spreading like a disease to the south. You watch and wait, always wary, always alert. Rome's shadow grows darker each year. Taxes become heavier, demands harsher, respect scarcer. Then, around 60 CE, everything changes. Prasutagus falls ill. You watch helplessly as the strong man who stood beside you fades. On his deathbed, he writes a will meant to protect your family and tribe. He leaves half his kingdom to you and your daughters, and half to the Roman Emperor Nero. It's an offering, a peace gesture intended to secure safety and stability after his death. But Rome doesn't recognize gestures, it sees only weakness. When news of Prasutagus' death reaches the Roman governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, the empire's response is swift, brutal, and merciless. Rome marches into your lands, dismissing your husband's will. They seize everything: homes, livestock, farmland, treasures, claiming it all in the name of Rome. When you stand against them, demanding justice and respect, they treat you not as a queen, but as a criminal. You're dragged into the center of your village, tied and beaten publicly, humiliated before your tribe, your daughters forced to watch. It's not just punishment, it's a message: Rome rules, and defiance is death. Your daughters too are taken, subjected to cruelties you can barely speak of. Your world, your people, your family are shattered by Roman arrogance, greed, and brutality. But Rome makes a critical mistake. They leave you alive. They think they've broken you, but the fire inside your heart has only grown hotter, fiercer. Your pain and shame harden into something stronger than rage: purpose. You wipe the blood from your face, raise your head, and stare defiantly into the eyes of your oppressors. You know exactly what you must do. You become vengeance. You become freedom. You become the warrior Rome fears. You stand before your people, your voice rising like thunder. You remind them of their ancestors, their pride, their honor. You call upon the old gods, spirits of the earth and sky, demanding justice. You vow to drive Rome from your land, to burn their cities, to avenge every humiliation, every cruelty. Your tribe rallies around you. Your name echoes through the villages, valleys, forests. Other tribes, the Trinovantes, the Corioltovi, hear your call. They come to you, warriors pledging loyalty, eager for battle, hungry for freedom. Your rebellion spreads like wildfire across Britain, a storm of fury and vengeance, unstoppable and righteous. You're no longer simply Boudica, queen of the Iceni. You stir the living embodiment of freedom. And Rome, for the first time, trembles at your name. This was your rise, your transformation from victim to avenger, from mother to warrior queen, from leader to legend. This is your life as Boudica. You've known pain, humiliation, and suffering at the hands of an empire that thought it could break you. But Rome underestimated who you are, underestimated the strength of your heart, the fire of your spirit, and the courage of your people. Now you stand at the head of a gathering storm. Thousands of warriors from multiple tribes, men and women painted in fierce war colors, carrying weapons sharpened by rage, await your command. You are no longer simply the queen of the Iceni. You are the leader of a rebellion that could set your people free or see them destroyed forever. You gather your allies at night, around roaring fires under skies filled with stars, ancient spirits watching as history unfolds. Tribes who once mistrusted one another now sit side by side, bound together by their shared hatred for Roman cruelty. The Trinovantes, who lost their sacred lands to Rome's colonists, stand by your side. The Corioltovi, tired of endless taxes and abuses, pledge warriors to your cause. Slowly, steadily, your army grows into a force Rome cannot ignore. The Romans dismiss your rebellion at first. To them you are merely an angry woman, a savage queen leading an army of barbarians. But your people know the truth. You are their symbol, their voice, their avenger. They follow you not out of fear, but out of loyalty, pride, and belief in justice. Your first target is clear: Camulodunum, a Roman colony built arrogantly upon sacred British land, a city that stands as a hateful symbol of Roman domination. It's home to retired Roman soldiers, wealthy settlers, and a temple dedicated to the Emperor Claudius, a man the Romans dared to worship as a god. You see it as a perfect place to strike the first blow against the empire that humiliated your family and people. As dawn breaks, you lead thousands of warriors toward Camulodunum. Your forces charge forward, spears and swords raised, battle cries shattering the morning air. The Romans, caught by surprise, scramble and panic. Your army sweeps through the streets like a wave of vengeance, cutting down soldiers who were once conquerors, settlers who once mocked your gods, and officials who dared enforce Rome's cruelty. The city burns. Buildings crumble, temples collapse, and screams fill the air as Roman arrogance dissolves into terror. Rome's colonists, once so proud and untouchable, now scatter helplessly before your warriors. This is more than revenge. It's justice, delivered by a people Rome believed it could oppress without consequence. News of your victory spreads rapidly. Across Britain, tribes who hesitated to join now rush to your banner. Your name, Boudica, is whispered with awe. To your enemies, you're a nightmare. To your allies, you're hope, but you're not done yet. Your next target is Londinium, an important trade settlement growing rapidly under Roman occupation. When word arrives that Roman governor Suetonius Paulinus himself is marching to stop you, you push onward even faster. You know that hesitation is defeat, that mercy would only invite betrayal. You show neither. Londinium, filled with Roman merchants and settlers, is abandoned as they flee ahead of your approach. The city, left almost defenseless, is captured easily. Your warriors burn it to the ground. Flames rise high into the night sky, casting a red glow that signals to all of Britain that Rome can bleed, Rome can fear, Rome can be beaten. Yet, there's a price. The Romans now realize the rebellion is more than a nuisance. Suetonius Paulinus, one of Rome's most ruthless commanders, gathers forces. He plans carefully, knowing a direct fight against your overwhelming numbers would be suicide. Instead, he retreats strategically, looking for terrain that will favor his disciplined legions. As you move forward, your army swells to tens of thousands. It's not just warriors who join entire villages travel with you, women, children, elders, all desperate for freedom. The line between a military force and a migration blurs. The weight of responsibility presses heavily on you, but you never show doubt. You stand tall, fearless, your red hair flowing like flame, your voice unwavering, your courage infectious. Your warriors follow you without hesitation. To them, you're more than a queen. You're a symbol of resistance, dignity, and the power of vengeance. They chant your name as they march, draw strength from your presence, believe fully in your ability to deliver them from oppression. Finally, Suetonius chooses his battlefield carefully, a narrow gorge surrounded by dense forests. His legions, disciplined and tightly organized, form ranks, shields locked, spears pointed forward, ready to face your warriors. You stand on your chariot, your daughters by your side, your heart fierce with pride and defiance. You speak to your people, reminding them of every injustice Rome inflicted. You remind them of their ancestors, of freedom, of honor. Your warriors roar their agreement, their battle cries shaking the earth itself. You charge forward, thousands upon thousands surging with you, a wave of fury, hope, vengeance, and freedom. The battle begins brutally. Your warriors, fueled by rage and passion, throw themselves fiercely against the disciplined Roman lines. At first it seems your numbers might overwhelm the enemy, but the narrow battlefield limits your advantage, and Rome's disciplined formations slowly grind down your momentum. The tide shifts cruelly. Warriors who moments before shouted your name now fall, unable to break through the Roman wall of shields and spears. You watch helplessly as hope turns to desperation, defiance into heartbreak. Slowly, painfully, your army falters. The Romans counterattack ruthlessly, trapping your warriors. Thousands fall. You refuse to retreat, fighting fiercely, determined never to surrender. But the battle's outcome becomes undeniable. Your army is defeated, your rebellion shattered on a battlefield whose name history forgets. You escape with your daughters and a handful of survivors, hearts heavy with grief. Yet even now, your spirit remains unbroken. You have fought bravely, proudly, fiercely. Rome might have defeated your army, but never your spirit. As you retreat into the forests, your name still echoes. Rome has won a battle, but you've shown the world what freedom looks like, what bravery means. You have become immortal, not as a queen defeated, but as a warrior queen who challenged an empire and inspired generations. This was your rebellion, your defiance, your war against tyranny. The battle is lost. Your warriors lie broken on a field, scarred by blood and grief. Where once tens of thousands roared your name in triumph, now silence blankets the land, heavy with defeat. You led your people bravely, passionately, defiantly, and yet Rome's disciplined legions proved unbreakable. But even as your army scatters into forests, as your dream of freedom crumbles before your eyes, your own heart remains fiercely proud and unyielding. You retreat into the safety of the forest with your daughters and those few warriors still loyal. Every step deeper into the wilderness feels heavier, each breath a battle against despair. Your rebellion was not merely a war, it was a promise, a desperate hope for freedom. Now hidden in shadows beneath ancient trees, you face a truth harsher than any Roman blade. Your rebellion has ended, your chance of victory shattered. The Romans pursue relentlessly, driven by humiliation and fear. To them, you aren't just a defeated enemy, you are a symbol of resistance, a spark that could reignite rebellion. Emperor Nero in faraway Rome demands you be captured, paraded through the streets of the city, humiliated publicly, an example made of the warrior queen who dared defy the empire. They want to erase your memory, break your spirit, extinguish your legend. But you refuse to grant them the satisfaction. You sit quietly beside a fire deep in the forest, your daughters resting beside you, warriors standing guard silently. The flames flicker across your face, illuminating a woman who has known victory and defeat, hope and despair, joy and sorrow. Your eyes reflect not just the fire's glow, but the weight of countless lives, your people, your family, your dreams, your pain. In this moment, you make your final choice. You will not be Rome's trophy, not a slave dragged in chains before their crowds. You will leave this world on your terms with dignity, honor, and freedom intact. With the same courage you showed in battle, you end your own life, drinking poison alongside your daughters. It is not an act of surrender, but a final defiance, a powerful statement that echoes beyond the forests, beyond Britain, even beyond the centuries. Rome arrives to find your camp empty, the fire still smoldering, your body silent and proud, untouchable in death. They expected a broken woman. Instead, they discover something far more dangerous, a martyr, a symbol, a legend whose voice can never be silenced, whose spirit can never be conquered. But Rome's victory is bitter. Your rebellion, though defeated, shook the empire deeply. Emperor Nero, furious and fearful, considers abandoning Britain entirely, believing the distant province might be impossible to control. Though he ultimately decides to maintain Roman rule, your uprising forces a shift. The Romans begin governing Britain with greater caution, aware of how swiftly oppression can ignite rebellion. Your story spreads quietly at first, through whispers around fires, stories told by survivors, legends passed down through generations. The warrior queen who stood tall, who defied Rome, who inspired thousands to rise and fight for freedom. As time passes, your legend grows. Boudica is no longer merely a name, it becomes a symbol, a rallying cry. Centuries later, when Britain once again faces oppression and invasion, people recall your story. They speak your name with pride, courage, and reverence. You inspire generations of resistance, not just in Britain, but everywhere people dream of freedom and dignity. In the Victorian era, nearly 2,000 years after your rebellion, British historians and poets rediscover your story. They celebrate you as a national heroine, a woman who stood bravely against tyranny, who fought fiercely for justice, who gave everything for freedom. Statues rise in your honor, paintings depict your bravery, poems celebrate your defiance. In London, near the very place you once burned in fury, a statue stands proudly, honoring your memory. The Romans who once mocked and humiliated you are long gone, replaced by generations who see you as a hero, a warrior queen who embodied dignity, courage, and resistance against oppression. Your legacy reaches far beyond Britain's shores. Around the world, your name becomes synonymous with strength, bravery, and defiance. Historians debate your life, scholars analyze your rebellion, artists capture your image, and writers immortalize your courage. You become a powerful symbol of resistance, celebrated by women who see in you strength, by oppressed peoples who find in your story hope, by nations who view you as a timeless reminder of dignity and freedom. Yet despite your legendary status, much about your life remains a mystery. History preserves only fragments of your true self, glimpses through biased Roman accounts. You never wrote your own story. Your voice exists only through the echoes of others. But even these fragments speak powerfully. They reveal a woman who faced unbearable loss, humiliation, and despair, yet chose not surrender but defiance, not submission but courage. Today, historians argue over your decisions, they question your rebellion, its tactics, its morality. But none deny your impact. Your uprising, brief and fiery, left scars upon Rome's mighty empire, forced changes in Roman governance, and ensured your name would never be forgotten. You fought not for personal glory, but for your people's freedom. Your legacy is not defined by your defeat, but by your defiance. History might call you a tragic figure, yet those who know your story see you differently. They see strength, dignity, courage, pride. They see a woman who stood bravely against overwhelming odds, whose spirit refused to be broken, whose voice still echoes today. You began life as a girl running freely through fields untouched by Rome. You ended it as a queen who challenged the greatest empire on earth. You never won your war, but you inspired a legacy that continues to shine brightly, defiantly, proudly. You are Boudica, warrior, queen, mother, leader, symbol. Your life is a story of freedom, resistance, dignity, and strength. And it will never be forgotten. Your story didn't end with your final breath. Even as your life faded in the quiet solitude of the forest, the story of the warrior queen who stood defiantly against Rome had already taken root. Your voice, once raised in fierce battle cries, now echoed through history, finding new forms, new meanings, new power. From a queen fighting for freedom, you became something far greater, a legend that would inspire millions across centuries. At first, Rome tried to erase your memory. They wanted to forget you ever existed, to pretend your rebellion was nothing but a minor disturbance, easily crushed. Roman historians minimized your actions, calling your rebellion an irrational outburst, dismissing you as nothing more than a savage woman who challenged the empire out of grief and madness. Yet, even in their dismissal, Rome acknowledged your power. They feared your memory, knowing that your defiance could inspire future generations to rise against oppression. But stories are stubborn things. They spread quietly at first, tales whispered by survivors of your rebellion, passed down through generations as sacred truths. Your name traveled across Britain, across the Celtic world, and eventually across continents. As the Roman Empire collapsed, your legend endured, reshaped by poets, historians, and artists who saw in your story something universal and timeless. Centuries after your death, medieval scribes rediscovered your tale. They celebrated your bravery and dignity, using your life as a symbol of resistance against oppression. They called you Boadicea, changing your name, but preserving your spirit. In illuminated manuscripts and chronicles, your image appeared, a queen leading warriors into battle, her hair wild, her face fierce, her voice raised in righteous fury. Yet it was the Victorian era, nearly 2,000 years after your rebellion, that truly revived your legend. During a time when Britain itself was an empire, your story became paradoxically a symbol of national pride and resistance against oppression. The Victorians saw in you everything they admired: courage, strength, dignity, and defiance. Poets and historians enthusiastically revisited your legacy, painting you as a tragic yet heroic figure who had stood bravely against tyranny and injustice. The Victorian poet Alfred, Lord Tennyson, wrote passionately about you, capturing your spirit vividly in verse. His portrayal of Boudica wasn't just heroic, it was fierce, proud, and unyielding. He painted you as a mother, a warrior, a leader driven not merely by revenge, but by righteous indignation. His words resonated deeply, embedding your story into Britain's cultural fabric. In 1902, a bronze statue of you was raised near Westminster Bridge in London, a monument that still stands today, proudly facing the Houses of Parliament, close to where you once burned the Roman colony of Londinium. On that statue, you stand tall, spear in hand, your two daughters by your side, forever captured in defiance and dignity. The words inscribed on the pedestal, drawn from Victorian poetry, read simply and proudly, "Regent Caesar never knew thy posterity shall sway." But your legacy isn't confined to Britain. Around the world, you became an enduring symbol of resistance, courage, and the power of dignity in the face of overwhelming oppression. Historians and activists alike reference your name when discussing struggles against tyranny, injustice, and occupation. You became a global icon, your story echoing wherever people fight for freedom and dignity. In literature and media, your tale continues to inspire. Books, films, documentaries, and television dramas recount your rebellion, each portrayal emphasizing different facets of your character: the warrior, the mother, the queen, the symbol of resistance. Though the details often shift and change, the core remains constant. A fierce woman who stood bravely, uncompromisingly, defiantly against one of history's most powerful empires. Historians continue debating your rebellion, seeking to understand your choices, motivations, and ultimate legacy. Some question your decisions, criticize your brutality, or discuss the tactical mistakes that led to your defeat. Others celebrate your bravery, resilience, and the powerful symbolism your rebellion carries. But none deny your significance. Your legacy is too deeply woven into the cultural memory of Britain and indeed the world to ever be forgotten. Your rebellion, while ultimately unsuccessful, achieved something extraordinary. It forced Rome to rethink how it governed conquered peoples. The empire, shaken by your defiance, began ruling Britain more carefully, less arrogantly, aware of how swiftly oppression could turn to rebellion. Even in defeat, you shaped history in ways you could never have imagined. Yet, despite your fame, much about your life remains hidden in mystery. No personal writings, no portraits drawn from life, no first-hand accounts from your perspective survive. You exist through the eyes of others, enemies who feared you, poets who admired you, historians who tried to understand you. But even through these fragmented accounts, your fierce spirit emerges clearly, compellingly, eternally. Today, you stand as a powerful symbol for women, embodying strength, resilience, and leadership. Feminists worldwide reference your story as a powerful example of female courage and empowerment. You were not a passive victim of history, you actively shaped it, stood bravely against injustice, led thousands into battle, inspired countless generations to rise against oppression. Modern scholars also explore your cultural significance deeply. To some, you symbolize national pride and independence. To others, you represent rebellion against colonial oppression, a timeless example for people striving for freedom and dignity. You transcend historical specifics, becoming something universal, a symbol whose meaning evolves yet remains powerful, inspirational, and relevant. Your legacy inspires ongoing discussions about justice, resistance, and human dignity. Schools around the world teach your story, emphasizing not only your courage and leadership, but the complexities and moral dimensions of rebellion, resistance, and revolution. Students debate your choices, your motivations, your actions, reflecting deeply on what it means to stand against injustice and oppression. Today, your name echoes loudly through history, culture, literature, politics, and education. You began as a queen seeking justice for your family and people. You became a global symbol of freedom, defiance, and dignity. You remind humanity of the power and consequences of resistance, of the courage required to stand against overwhelming odds, and of the eternal importance of dignity, justice, and freedom. You are Boudica, more than a queen, more than a warrior. You are a legend whose legacy endures vividly, defiantly, and powerfully across generations. This was your immortal legacy, the warrior queen whose spirit refuses to fade. You lived as a warrior queen, a mother, a leader whose defiance shook one of the most powerful empires in history. Yet your impact has grown far beyond your lifetime, reaching into the modern world, resonating deeply in today's discussions of freedom, equality, empowerment, and justice. More than 2,000 years after your rebellion, your name echoes powerfully as a symbol of female strength, resistance, and the ongoing struggle against oppression. You never set out to become an icon, you fought for your people's freedom, dignity, and survival. Yet, as your story traveled across centuries, it transformed, inspiring movements far beyond the forests and fields of ancient Britain. Feminist thinkers and activists around the world discovered in your legacy a powerful, timeless message: women are strong, brave, capable, and fully able to lead, even in the harshest circumstances. In the early days of the feminist movement, your legend provided a vivid historical example of female empowerment. Women advocating for equal rights in the 19th and early 20th centuries often referenced your bravery, resilience, and leadership. At a time when society sought to limit women's roles, activists pointed to you, a warrior queen who had led tens of thousands into battle, as proof that women were not merely capable of leadership, but had been leading throughout history, even when their contributions went unrecognized. Suffragists in Britain and around the world celebrated your image, using your rebellion as inspiration for their own fight for equality and political representation. Your story provided a historical precedent, showing that women had always been strong, courageous, and politically active. Suffrage banners, posters, and pamphlets frequently invoked your memory, urging women to follow your example and fight bravely for their rights. During the height of Britain's suffrage movement, prominent feminist leaders such as Emmeline Pankhurst referenced your name passionately. In speeches and writings, they described your fierce determination and bravery as proof that women's strength and leadership had deep historical roots. Your example inspired women to resist passivity, to stand proudly, defiantly, courageously in their own battles for justice and equality. In modern times, your name and image continue inspiring feminist movements globally. Feminist scholars often highlight your rebellion as evidence of women's historical power and agency. You are celebrated as a figure who challenged patriarchal power structures, defied societal expectations, and asserted women's rights to leadership and resistance. Feminist literature frequently references your example, discussing your life as a powerful symbol of resistance against patriarchal oppression. In the realm of popular culture, your legacy finds fresh relevance. Films, novels, graphic novels, and television series featuring your story often emphasize feminist themes, portraying you not merely as a warrior, but as a woman navigating a deeply patriarchal society, fiercely protecting her family, people, and dignity. These modern interpretations encourage viewers to reflect deeply on gender roles, power dynamics, and women's historical contributions to resistance movements. Your story also challenges traditional narratives about history, power, and resistance. For centuries, historical narratives were largely dominated by male perspectives, often neglecting or marginalizing women's roles. Your life provides powerful evidence that women have always actively shaped history, led rebellions, and challenged oppressive structures. Your legacy inspires contemporary historians to explore other overlooked women leaders, revolutionaries, and warriors, expanding our understanding of history's complexity and diversity. In educational contexts, your story continues to inspire critical conversations about gender equality, empowerment, and historical narratives. Schools worldwide teach your rebellion not simply as a historical event, but as a lesson on gender power and justice. Students engage with your story deeply, analyzing not only the historical facts, but also the broader implications. What does it mean to resist oppression? How have women's historical roles been overlooked? How can we use historical examples to advocate for equality today? In politics and activism, your image remains a powerful symbol. Women-led movements globally frequently reference your example to assert their strength, leadership, and dignity. Whether protesting against discrimination, advocating for reproductive rights, or resisting oppressive regimes, modern activists draw inspiration from your legacy. Your name appears on banners, your image on murals, powerful reminders of courage, defiance, and resilience in the face of oppression. In Britain itself, you're recognized as an iconic figure who transcends mere historical memory, embodying national pride, resilience, and resistance. Discussions around national identity frequently invoke your legacy as proof of Britain's enduring spirit of defiance and courage. Yet your universal appeal extends far beyond British borders, becoming a powerful symbol for anyone fighting oppression, injustice, and inequality worldwide. Your story also resonates powerfully in discussions about violence, resistance, and justice. Some critics argue your rebellion's brutality raises important ethical questions about violence as a means of resistance. Yet even these critical debates highlight your relevance, prompting deep conversations about moral complexities inherent in resistance movements. You force contemporary society to confront difficult ethical questions about rebellion, violence, and justice, questions as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. In women's empowerment programs globally, your legacy serves as a powerful tool for building confidence, resilience, and leadership. Young girls learn your story, discovering in your bravery and leadership proof that women have always shaped history actively. You become a historical role model, reminding women everywhere that their strength, courage, and leadership can change the world, even against overwhelming odds. Your legacy inspires conversations around intersectionality as well, highlighting the need to recognize diverse experiences within feminist movements. Scholars and activists explore how your example relates to women facing intersecting forms of oppression today, emphasizing the importance of understanding complex power dynamics in the fight for equality and justice. In every context, historical, cultural, political, educational, and social, your life continues resonating vividly. You lived thousands of years ago, yet your legacy feels immediate, powerful, and relevant. You were more than a warrior queen who challenged Rome. You became a timeless symbol of women's strength, resilience, dignity, and empowerment. You never set out to become a symbol, but your rebellion, fueled by personal tragedy and societal injustice, ensured your name would inspire generations. Today, your story stands proudly alongside other legendary women, Joan of Arc, Harriet Tubman, Malala Yousafzai, as powerful examples of female courage, defiance, and strength. This was your ultimate legacy, a legacy not merely historical, but living, breathing, inspiring countless generations of women fighting for justice, equality, and dignity. You are Boudica, warrior queen, rebel leader, feminist icon. And your spirit continues to inspire the world. Our life began simply a girl born into the Iceni, surrounded by forests, freedom, and a proud people untouched by Roman chains. You never imagined you'd become the face of a rebellion, a symbol of defiance against one of history's most ruthless empires, yet fate shaped your story differently. Your journey from daughter to warrior queen wasn't just a personal struggle, it became a universal message, a timeless reminder of humanity's enduring fight against oppression, injustice, and the abuse of power. You didn't choose your tragedy. Rome's cruelty thrusted upon you, stripping you of dignity, safety, and family. But how you responded, that was your choice. You could have bowed to Rome, accepted humiliation quietly, sought survival and submission. Instead, you chose defiance. You stood tall, proud, courageous, transforming personal pain into collective purpose. This choice, your refusal to be a victim, your willingness to fight back, became your greatest legacy. Your life teaches powerful lessons that resonate deeply across generations and cultures. At its core, your story asks humanity to reflect on questions as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. What does dignity mean? What price is freedom worth? What responsibilities do we hold toward ourselves, our communities, and our future? Your rebellion challenges society to confront uncomfortable truths about power, oppression, and resistance. Your legacy shows us clearly that oppression thrives not just through violence, but also through silence. Rome's abuses were sustained because many chose quiet acceptance over risky resistance. Your voice, loud, defiant, unwavering, shattered that silence. You taught future generations that resistance begins when silence ends, when courage speaks, when dignity refuses compromise. You remind us powerfully that leadership isn't defined by gender, birth, or privilege. It's defined by courage, compassion, and integrity. You led thousands into battle, not because tradition demanded it, but because necessity required it. Your strength wasn't imposed, it arose naturally from adversity, from injustice, from the need for dignity. Today, your story inspires countless individuals, particularly women, to challenge restrictive expectations, to lead bravely, boldly, and unapologetically. Your rebellion also serves as a vivid reminder of the complexity of resistance. Fighting against oppression rarely comes without moral costs. Your revolt was fierce, ruthless, and brutal, both in its victories and its ultimate defeat. This complexity forces us to confront the ethics of rebellion. How do we balance justice with mercy? Can violence against oppression ever be justified? Your life offers no easy answers, only difficult questions that humanity continues grappling with today. In defeat, you provide an equally powerful lesson, reminding us that victory isn't the only measure of worth. You never achieved freedom from Rome's tyranny, yet your story became timeless precisely because you refused surrender. You chose dignity over submission, defiance over silence, pride over humiliation. Your legacy proves that sometimes courage and defiance in the face of defeat resonate more powerfully than victory ever could. Your life also emphasizes the importance of collective resistance. Your rebellion wasn't a solitary act, it involved thousands drawn from different tribes, backgrounds, and experiences. Your strength lay not merely in personal bravery, but in uniting others around a common cause. Today, your story underscores the necessity of solidarity, community, and collective action in confronting injustice and oppression. No individual fights alone, and your example inspires unity among those who stand for dignity and freedom. Yet your legacy isn't merely political or historical, it's deeply human, reminding us of the profound importance of dignity, identity, and resilience in the face of adversity. You fought not simply for political freedom, but for something deeper, the right of your people to live with dignity, pride, and honor. Your struggle remains relevant precisely because dignity is timeless, a universal human aspiration that transcends history, culture, and geography. Your story also carries profound lessons on grief, resilience, and healing. Rome inflicted unimaginable pain upon you personally, yet you didn't allow grief to defeat you. Instead, you channeled it into action, purpose, and resistance. Your life speaks powerfully to those facing trauma and injustice, reminding them that pain, though deeply personal, can also fuel powerful movements for justice and dignity. Modern society continues wrestling with these lessons. Across the globe, communities confront oppressive forces, political corruption, systemic injustice, violence, inequality. Your rebellion reminds us that resistance against these forces is necessary, meaningful, and deeply human. You inspire contemporary movements, whether political protests, social justice campaigns, or personal struggles for dignity and respect, to continue fighting bravely, even when victory feels uncertain. Your legacy remains especially powerful for women and marginalized communities, demonstrating that strength, bravery, and defiance are accessible to all, not just to those traditionally seen as powerful. You challenge society's limiting stereotypes, showing that leadership, courage, and strength transcend gender, status, and circumstance. Your life teaches future generations to embrace their strength, dignity, and potential fully and unapologetically. Ultimately, your story is a timeless reflection on freedom, dignity, resistance, and humanity's endless struggle against injustice. You remind the world that while individuals may fall, ideas endure, freedom, dignity, justice persist long after those who champion them have passed. You, Boudica, embodied those ideals bravely, passionately, fiercely, and through your story, they live on powerfully, eternally. Your legacy invites humanity to reflect deeply, not merely on historical facts or events, but on the meaning of courage, dignity, and resistance. You challenge us to ask ourselves, each generation anew, what we value, what we fight for, what price we're willing to pay for freedom and dignity. You remind us that oppression never disappears, it merely changes form, demanding eternal vigilance, courage, and collective resistance. In your story, we see ourselves, our struggles, our hopes, our fears, our resilience. You are no longer merely a historical figure, you have become a mirror reflecting humanity's ongoing quest for dignity, freedom, and justice. Your rebellion, your courage, your defiance resonate deeply within each of us, inviting continual reflection, inspiration, and action. You lived long ago, yet your message remains immediate, powerful, and urgent. You began life as a girl running freely through fields untouched by Rome. You ended it as a warrior queen whose defiance shook an empire. But your greatest victory is your enduring legacy, a legacy inspiring courage, resilience, dignity, and resistance in every generation. You are Boudica, warrior, queen, mother, leader, symbol. Your life is a timeless reminder of humanity's enduring strength, dignity, and resistance. And your voice, fierce and defiant, continues echoing powerfully, vividly, eternally. It's 100 BCE. You enter the world gasping for air, your first cries echoing through a modest patrician household in Rome. Outside these walls, Rome is a city of ambition, intrigue, and violence, an empire expanding rapidly, devouring everything in its path. Your name is Gaius Julius Caesar, and whether you like it or not, history is already sharpening its knives. Your family, the Julii, claim descent from Venus herself. An impressive lineage, but unfortunately, your actual wealth and power don't quite match the family myth. While you're born noble, you're far from wealthy. Early on, you learn that a famous name means little if your pockets aren't heavy enough to support it. You're forced to navigate an empire where reputation is everything, but ambition can cost your life. Your earliest memories involve harsh discipline, endless lessons, and political lectures from stern-faced tutors. While other children play carefree games, your childhood is dominated by discussions about the Senate, alliances, and rival families. By the time you're 5, you're fluent in Latin and Greek, drilled relentlessly in rhetoric, logic, and public speaking. These skills aren't mere academic exercises, they're survival tools. One careless word could lead to disgrace, exile, or even death. Rome itself is dangerous. Politicians vie viciously for power. Assassinations, riots, and conspiracies are common, almost routine. Your own family is no exception. Your uncle, Gaius Marius, is a legendary general whose military reforms shape Rome's future, but his bitter feud with Lucius Cornelius Sulla splits Rome into violent factions. You're only a boy, yet you witness firsthand the devastating effects of these rivalries. Your uncle's fall from grace is swift, brutal, and merciless, a brutal lesson you never forget. When you're 15, your life changes forever. Your father dies suddenly, leaving you as head of the family. Overnight, responsibility crushes you. You're expected to manage family affairs, arrange your sister's marriage, and defend the fragile family honor, all while navigating Rome's dangerous political waters. No pressure, right? To solidify your family's political alliances, you marry Cornelia, daughter of an influential politician allied with your uncle's faction. She's beautiful, intelligent, and politically useful, your first real taste of political strategy disguised as love. It's a good match, but it brings you dangerously close to the flames of Sulla's fury. When Sulla finally seizes power, he targets everyone connected to Marius, including you. He demands you divorce Cornelia immediately, hoping to weaken his political rivals. You refuse, standing defiantly against Rome's most feared leader. Your youthful stubbornness nearly costs you your life. You're stripped of your inheritance, your priesthood, and forced to flee Rome, hiding from Sulla's assassins. The message is clear: Rome is merciless. To survive, you must be equally ruthless. While in exile, you join the army, your first taste of military life. You're a quick learner, charismatic and cunning, quickly impressing fellow soldiers and officers alike. You're not content to remain just another soldier, you dream of commanding legions, reshaping Rome's future. Every battle strengthens your resolve, each victory fueling your ambition. After Sulla's death, you return to Rome cautiously, hoping to rebuild your family's fortunes. But your financial situation is dire. Your family's estate is nearly bankrupt, forcing you into massive debt to maintain appearances. To escape these burdens, you set sail for Rhodes, determined to study under the great Greek orators. On the journey, pirates capture your ship, another cruel twist of fate. The pirates demand a hefty ransom, 20 talents of silver. You're insulted, insisting they ask for 50 talents instead. They laugh, admiring your audacity, but you're deadly serious. You spend weeks captive, treating your kidnappers like inferiors, promising them that once free, you'll return to crucify them. They find you amusing. Big mistake. When your ransom arrives and you're released, you immediately raise a small fleet, hunt down the pirates, and deliver on your grim promise. True to your word, you crucify every one of them, though in a twisted act of mercy, you slit their throats first. Rome takes notice. Caesar is not a man to trifle with. Returning to Rome, you throw yourself fully into politics. Your debts spiral, forcing you deeper into alliances with powerful yet dangerous men. You court public favor relentlessly, staging extravagant games, hosting lavish feasts, and tirelessly charming Rome's masses. You master the art of appearing generous and magnanimous, masking ruthless ambition behind a genial smile. Your popularity rises, but so do your enemies. By age 31, you're climbing the political ladder rapidly. Elected Pontifex Maximus, Rome's highest priest, you control religious affairs, a powerful stepping stone toward political dominance. Your debts are astronomical, but power is your only currency now. You leverage every alliance, charm every rival, crush every opponent. Yet, the Senate remains wary. They sense danger in your charisma, ambition in your charm. They're not wrong. When the Catiline conspiracy, a plot to overthrow the Republic, erupts, you face your first significant crisis. Catiline's conspirators are captured and sentenced to death without trial. In the Senate, you boldly argue against this, championing mercy, justice, and constitutional law. Many admire your courage, but others see only cynical manipulation, accusing you of being soft on traitors. Your reputation teeters precariously, but you skillfully survive. In 61 BCE, at age 39, you're appointed governor of Hispania, finally gaining command of legions. On the battlefield, you thrive. You conquer rebellious tribes swiftly, enriching Rome and yourself with wealth and glory. Your debts vanish, replaced by vast riches plundered from Spain's conquered territories. Rome applauds your victories, but behind the cheers, rivals grind their teeth, plotting your downfall. Returning to Rome, your eyes are now set on the highest prize, the consulship. You forge an alliance with two powerful men, Pompey the Great, Rome's greatest general, and Crassus, Rome's wealthiest citizen. Together, you form the infamous triumvirate, controlling Rome's politics entirely. Your rise seems unstoppable, but behind this facade of unity lies bitter rivalry, jealousy, and looming betrayal. At age 41, you're finally elected consul. You push through controversial reforms, using populist rhetoric to rally citizens against conservative senators. Tensions rise dangerously, Rome teetering on civil war. To avoid direct confrontation, your enemies send you away, granting command of Gaul far from Rome. They believe they're exiling you, neutralizing your influence. It couldn't be more wrong. Gaul will be your greatest conquest and your deadliest gamble yet. This was your turbulent rise from birth to political dominance as Julius Caesar. It's 58 BCE. You stand at the edge of the known world, Gaul, a wild, untamed region filled with fierce warriors, dense forests, towering mountains, and endless potential. Rome sees Gaul as a distant backwater, a dangerous frontier barely worth the trouble. But you see something else, your future. Gaul is your ticket to immortal glory or a brutal grave. Your new position, proconsul of Gaul, gives you command over 4 legions, approximately 20,000 battle-hardened Roman soldiers, but these men barely know you. Trust, respect, and loyalty must be earned in blood and victory. You must quickly prove you're more than just another ambitious politician playing soldier. The tribes of Gaul won't wait for you to learn. They're sharpening their swords already. Your first challenge comes immediately. The Helvetii, a massive tribe numbering hundreds of thousands, begin migrating, threatening Roman borders. It's your chance. You rapidly mobilize your legions, intercepting them decisively at the Rhone River. Negotiations stall. Diplomacy fails. War erupts, exactly what you wanted. You crush the Helvetii in a brutal campaign, scattering survivors, capturing thousands. Your troops taste their first victory under your leadership. They begin respecting your courage, tactical genius, and willingness to fight alongside them. Quickly, you cement your growing legend. You next face Ariovistus, a Germanic king whose forces threaten Gaul. Your legions tremble at stories of Germanic warriors' brutality. They're uneasy, doubting your leadership, but you stride confidently into camp, rallying troops with stirring speeches, reminding them of Rome's unstoppable destiny. Confidence restored, they march eagerly into battle, annihilating Ariovistus's forces decisively. Now your soldiers don't just respect you, they revere you. Rome is beginning to whisper your name with awe. But Gaul won't yield easily. Tribes constantly rebel, testing your patience and leadership. You respond brutally, burning villages, enslaving thousands, executing leaders publicly. Your message is clear: defiance equals annihilation. Gaul learns swiftly the price of resistance. Yet your harsh tactics cause resentment. Tribal hatred simmers beneath forced loyalty, ready to explode violently. Still, you continue marching forward relentlessly, conquering territory after territory. Your legions swell with fresh recruits, hungry for plunder and glory. Victories pile up against the Belgae, the Nervii, the Veneti. Each campaign expands Rome's dominion, enriches your soldiers, and cements your legend further. Yet with every conquest, your enemies multiply, waiting quietly for revenge. Life in Gaul is brutally difficult. Campaigning means harsh winters, starvation, disease, and constant ambushes. You share your soldiers' hardships, sleeping on frozen ground, marching endless miles, fighting in mud, rain, snow. They watch you closely, noting your unwavering resolve, tireless energy, and utter fearlessness. They love you, willing to die without hesitation for their general, their Caesar. Yet behind your outward bravery hides deep loneliness. Friends and family are far away, intrigues festering in Rome without you. Letters from home carry disturbing news. Your daughter Julia, wife to Pompey, has died. She was the binding force between your uneasy alliance with Pompey and Crassus. With Julia gone, that bond weakens dangerously. You're painfully aware that your political allies may soon become deadly enemies. You find comfort in writing. Every night in your tent, exhausted from battle, you chronicle your campaigns meticulously, your famous commentaries on the Gallic War. This isn't mere vanity, it's propaganda cleverly designed to bolster your reputation in Rome. You describe battles vividly, highlighting your tactical genius, your soldiers' bravery, your triumphs against overwhelming odds. Citizens back home devour your writings, seeing you as a legendary hero, the embodiment of Rome itself. After 6 brutal years in Gaul, you face your greatest test yet, Vercingetorix. A charismatic tribal leader, he unites Gaul's fragmented tribes into a massive rebellion against Rome. His forces number hundreds of thousands, determined to destroy your legions and expel Rome forever. It's your darkest hour, your greatest crisis, and your ultimate opportunity for immortal glory. Vercingetorix adopts brutal scorched earth tactics, burning villages, fields, and supplies to deny your armies food. Starvation threatens your troops daily. Morale plummets. Soldiers grumble, questioning your leadership openly. But you refuse to retreat, knowing defeat would destroy your legacy permanently. Desperation breeds ruthless resolve. You decide on a daring gamble, siege Alesia, Vercingetorix's stronghold, trapping him inside. But there's a catch. While laying siege, another massive Gallic army approaches behind your lines, threatening to trap you in turn. You must simultaneously defend against this external force while maintaining your siege, an impossible position. Yet you never falter, never doubt. Calmly, methodically, you construct double fortifications, defensive walls, both inward and outward, a masterstroke of engineering and tactical brilliance. The Battle of Alesia is brutal, chaotic, relentless. For days, you fend off constant attacks from both sides. Soldiers fight desperately, often without sleep or food. Casualties mount alarmingly. Yet your calm presence inspires unbreakable resolve. Troops rally repeatedly, driven by loyalty and your fearless example. Eventually, enemy attacks falter, exhausted by your defense's stubborn resistance. Finally, starving and broken, Vercingetorix surrenders dramatically, throwing himself at your feet. Rome's greatest enemy kneels before you, broken and defeated. Gaul is yours, conquered utterly, decisively, forever. Your legions roar triumphantly, chanting your name endlessly. It's your greatest victory, the pinnacle of military glory. Yet privately, exhaustion overwhelms you. Gaul's conquest cost immense suffering, hundreds of thousands dead, villages annihilated, lives destroyed. You've brought Rome wealth, territory, glory, but at what moral price? Those questions haunt your nights, disturbing your sleep profoundly. Rome itself grows nervous. Your popularity is dangerous, your army fiercely loyal solely to you. Senators whisper anxiously, Caesar has become too powerful, too loved. They begin plotting your downfall secretly. Pompey, once your friend, increasingly jealous, views you suspiciously. Crassus, another ally, dies tragically in Parthia, eliminating another stabilizing force. As you prepare to return home, Rome braces itself nervously, sensing imminent conflict. You're victorious, wealthy, beloved, and dangerously powerful. Your enemies gather quietly, knives hidden behind welcoming smiles. The Rubicon River stands before you, marking Rome's boundary. Cross it, and civil war is inevitable. Yet hesitation isn't your nature. You know your destiny demands crossing that fateful river, whatever the cost. This was your ruthless conquest of Gaul, your legendary victories, and the bloody price you paid for immortal glory as Julius Caesar. The Rubicon River stands calmly before you. It's not wide, barely more than a gentle stream, yet it's the most dangerous boundary you've ever faced. On one side, you're the celebrated conqueror of Gaul, hero to thousands of battle-hardened soldiers. On the other side lies Rome, your home, your destiny, and your most dangerous enemy yet. You understand clearly, once you cross, there's no turning back. The year is 49 BCE, and Rome is tense. Senators whisper anxiously, fearing your growing popularity and power. Pompey, your former ally and now bitter rival, has been swayed against you. He orders you to disband your legions and return to Rome as a private citizen, stripped of your command, vulnerable and defenseless. It's a carefully laid trap. Comply, and your enemies destroy you politically. Refuse, and you're branded a traitor, igniting civil war. But submission was never your style. You've survived assassins, pirates, and barbarian hordes. You're not about to be undone by politicians. Your soldiers trust you implicitly, loyal to Caesar, not Rome. They've suffered beside you, bled for you, and share your ambitions. You know their hearts. They're ready to follow wherever you lead. Yet doubt nags at you. Civil war will tear Rome apart, pitting friends against friends, brothers against brothers. Blood will flow in Roman streets because of your choice. Is the cost too great? You stare into the river, haunted by visions of Rome's potential ruin. Then clarity returns. Your enemies force this moment, not you. Your hand rests on your horse's mane, steadying yourself. You know hesitation will mean defeat and possibly death. Summoning courage, you deliver words soon to echo through history. The die is cast. With those simple words, you spur your horse forward, plunging into history. Your troops cheer wildly, following without hesitation. Civil war has begun. Your march toward Rome is swift, decisive. Town after town surrenders without resistance, citizens greeting you warmly. Pompey and his supporters flee the capital in panic, retreating southward, hoping to regroup. You enter Rome triumphantly, yet not as a conqueror. You're careful to appear merciful, restrained, magnanimous. No executions, no looting, only promises of reform and justice. Citizens love you for this. Your reputation soars higher. Yet Pompey still controls powerful legions loyal to the Senate. He escapes across the sea to Greece, preparing massive forces to crush your rebellion. You must pursue swiftly, decisively, or risk losing momentum. With limited resources and exhausted troops, you follow boldly, gambling everything once more. The war spreads across the Mediterranean, Spain, Greece, Egypt, Africa. Battles rage fiercely, each victory costly, each defeat dangerous. Your armies face starvation, storms, desert heat, and endless hardship, yet your charismatic leadership inspires legendary devotion. Soldiers fight desperately, buoyed by your relentless determination, your tactical genius, your willingness to share their suffering. You clash decisively with Pompey at Pharsalus in Greece, a pivotal moment. Outnumbered and weakened by long campaigns, you rely on cunning and discipline. The battle is brutal, chaotic, ferocious, yet through superior strategy and iron resolve, you triumph spectacularly. Pompey flees, utterly defeated, his army shattered. You stand victorious once again, now Rome's uncontested ruler in all but name. Pompey escapes to Egypt, hoping for sanctuary. Instead, Egyptian rulers murder him brutally, presenting his severed head as a grotesque gift. When the gruesome sight is presented to you, you're disgusted. Pompey was your rival, but also a Roman, a friend turned enemy, deserving a dignified fate. Rage burns within you, solidifying your resolve to restore order and dignity to a fractured world. In Egypt, you intervene decisively. A chaotic dynastic struggle grips the kingdom, young Ptolemy XIII fighting his sister Cleopatra VII for the throne. Cleopatra, ambitious and intelligent, approaches you cleverly, hidden in a rug delivered directly to your chambers. Impressed by her audacity, intellect, and charm, you side with her, igniting yet another conflict, the Siege of Alexandria. Months of brutal urban warfare follow. Fires rage, battles erupt through city streets. At one point, you're nearly killed, narrowly escaping danger when your own ships catch fire. Yet your calmness under pressure never wavers. Ultimately, you prevail, installing Cleopatra as Egypt's ruler. She becomes your lover, bearing your child, Caesarion. Your influence now spans Rome and Egypt, linking two powerful civilizations under your name. But the war isn't finished. Pompey's remaining allies regroup in Africa and Spain, continuing resistance stubbornly. Battles like Thapsus and Munda test your legions severely. Brutal fighting leaves thousands dead, testing even your resolve. Yet your tactical brilliance again delivers victory. With each triumph, your power becomes absolute, your enemies fewer. Finally, in 45 BCE, the civil war ends. Rome lies exhausted, bloodied, desperate for stability. You return triumphantly, dictator for life, absolute ruler. Citizens cheer enthusiastically, yet behind celebrations lurk hidden resentment, bitterness, envy. Senators begrudge your power, fearing the republic's end. You're painfully aware Rome's peace is fragile, built atop simmering resentments. You rule decisively, swiftly reforming government, taxes, and infrastructure. Your reforms greatly benefit ordinary citizens, yet earn powerful enemies. Senators see you as a threat, too popular, too powerful, dangerously close to becoming king. Rumors spread of your ambition, whispers warning of tyranny. You dismiss these threats outwardly, yet privately, unease grows. Warnings arrive frequently, plots to assassinate you uncovered regularly, friends urge caution, bodyguards accompany you constantly. Yet pride dismisses danger. You're Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, victor of civil war, master of Rome itself. You refuse to live in fear, determined to face whatever fate awaits boldly. But enemies gather silently, conspirators sharpening daggers in darkness. You sense danger, yet stubborn pride refuses retreat. March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March, draws near, Rome's fateful date with destiny. A prophecy warns clearly, beware the Ides of March, yet arrogance dismisses superstition foolishly. Unknowingly, you walk steadily toward betrayal, assassination, and tragedy. History waits breathlessly, watching your final steps toward destiny. This was your fateful choice, crossing the Rubicon, plunging Rome into civil war, forging your legend, and sealing your tragic fate as Julius Caesar. March 15th, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. Dawn breaks over Rome, pale sunlight illuminating marble streets and towering columns. The city awakens, unaware this day will forever change history. You, Julius Caesar, dictator for life, have achieved everything: wealth, fame, unmatched power. Yet today, all that might vanish in an instant. Despite repeated warnings, you ignore superstition. A seer once urged caution, famously telling you to beware the Ides of March. Even your wife Calpurnia dreams of your death, begging you to remain home. But pride clouds your judgment. You refuse to appear fearful, determined to demonstrate strength by attending the Senate as usual. After all, Rome must see you're unafraid, invincible. That morning, unease grips Rome. Senators gather nervously, exchanging furtive glances, speaking quietly. Beneath the surface of respect hides jealousy, resentment, and fear of your growing power. They worry you seek monarchy, ending Rome's beloved republic permanently. Rumors spread swiftly, whispers of conspiracy trickling through marble halls. You step confidently from your home, greeting citizens warmly, masking lingering unease. Your bodyguards accompany you initially, yet halfway to the Senate, you dismiss them, declaring confidently, Rome needs no bodyguards to protect Caesar. It's a reckless decision, driven by pride, a decision you'll regret forever. Entering Pompey's theater, temporary home of the Senate, you greet senators cheerfully, unaware betrayal hides behind friendly smiles. They rise respectfully, yet tension fills the room palpably. You're guided toward your usual seat, placed before a statue of Pompey, your former ally turned enemy, a haunting irony you fail to notice. A senator, Tillius Cimber, approaches, petitioning clemency for his brother. Politely, you refuse. Suddenly, senators crowd closely, suffocatingly. Confused, annoyed, you turn sharply. What violence is this? Your heart pounds anxiously. Before you can react, hand seize your toga roughly, pulling violently. A sharp blade pierces deeply into your flesh, pain explodes instantly, disbelief overwhelming you. You stagger, stunned, turning desperately. Senators you trusted, friends, allies, men you elevated personally, stand holding bloody daggers, eyes blazing with hatred. A nightmare unfolding before you. More blades plunge repeatedly into your body, one after another, merciless, relentless. You fight desperately, courageously, yet betrayal crushes your spirit utterly. Among attackers, you glimpse Brutus, your protégé, trusted confidant, almost a son to you. His blade plunges mercilessly, your heart shatters emotionally, betrayal worse than physical pain. Through blood-soaked lips, you utter famously, "Et tu, Brute? Even you, Brutus?" Strength drains rapidly. Legs buckle beneath you, body collapsing heavily onto cold marble. Senators scatter hurriedly, fear overcoming hatred. Silence engulfs the chamber eerily, broken only by your ragged breathing and trickling blood-staining polished floors. Life ebbs swiftly, memories flooding painfully, conquests, triumphs, friends, lovers, regrets. Rome's greatest leader lies dying, abandoned, betrayed cruelly. Strength fades, darkness descends inexorably. Your final breath escapes painfully. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, victor of civil war, dictator of Rome, dies alone on the Senate floor, a brutal, humiliating end. Outside, panic grips Rome. News spreads rapidly, Caesar assassinated, Rome plunged into chaos. Crowds gather fearfully, anger growing dangerously. Your murderers hope to restore republic freedoms. Instead, civil unrest erupts violently, plunging Rome into deeper crisis. Your corpse lies unattended briefly, blood pooling, testament to betrayal's cost. Mark Antony, loyal friend and lieutenant, takes charge quickly. Grief-stricken yet politically shrewd, he displays your bloody toga dramatically during a public funeral. His fiery oration inflames crowds passionately, turning public opinion sharply against assassins. Rome demands revenge furiously, your killers flee swiftly, hunted viciously. Even dead, your influence remains unmatched. Yet power struggles emerge swiftly. Antony vies aggressively with young Octavian, your adopted heir, for control. Rome plunges deeper into turmoil, another civil war looming. Your death, intended to preserve Rome's republic, instead ignites violence, power struggles, further chaos. Rome suffers greatly, devastated by divisions your assassination unleashed tragically. Meanwhile, your funeral pyre burns brilliantly in Rome's forum, flames consuming your remains dramatically. Citizens weep openly, mourning deeply. Rome recognizes belatedly your greatness, mourning profoundly the tragic loss caused by short-sighted assassins. History remembers your death bitterly, as brutal betrayal destroying Rome's brightest hope for stability, peace, and greatness. But beyond grief lies profound reflection. Your assassination provides chilling warnings, dangers inherent in absolute power, tragic consequences when democracy falters, violence caused by political divisions unchecked. History studies your murder intently, analyzing betrayal's psychological complexities, political implications, profound costs to societies divided by hatred, fear, envy. Yet personally, your end remains deeply tragic. Despite immense power, wealth, accomplishments, you died betrayed by closest friends, abandoned cruelly in your final moments. Beneath ruthless ambition hid deep vulnerabilities, loneliness, insecurities, desires for respect, admiration, love never fully satisfied. Your assassination symbolizes tragically high personal cost ambition exacts, sacrificing relationships, morality, humanity itself for fleeting power, ultimately meaningless in death. Rome itself struggles profoundly afterward, torn apart by continued conflict your death ignited. Civil wars erupt repeatedly, ultimately leading Rome toward imperial monarchy, ironically. Your assassination, intended to protect republic freedoms, instead accelerated monarchy's rise inevitably. History observes bitterly this tragic irony, how assassins' misguided actions destroyed Rome's fragile democracy permanently. Yet, even centuries later, your death resonates powerfully. Societies worldwide study intensely your assassination's complexities, political, psychological, moral implications. Your life and death provide stark reminders of democracy's fragility, power's corrupting influence, profound human costs when ambition eclipses morality. Students learn vividly from your tragic fate critical lessons, importance of humility, moral integrity, democratic values, compassion. Your assassination, brutal and tragic, remains history's powerful cautionary tale. Julius Caesar, your violent death continues teaching humanity profound, timeless lessons, warnings about ambition's dangers, consequences of political division unchecked, importance democracy's preservation, necessity for leaders valuing morality above personal gain. This was your brutal, tragic assassination, the shocking betrayal ending your extraordinary life as Julius Caesar. Your assassination plunges Rome into an abyss. The republic your killers hope to save crumbles even faster, spiraling uncontrollably toward chaos, violence, and civil war. Rome's streets overflow with anger, grief, and confusion. Instead of freedom, your death leaves a power vacuum that ambitious men rush to fill. The consequences reverberate for generations. Initially, your assassins believe their deed heroic. Men like Brutus and Cassius imagine themselves saviors, having removed Rome's greatest threat to republican ideals. But they quickly realize their miscalculation. Rome sees not heroes but traitors. Fearful for their lives, conspirators flee the city, retreating into distant provinces, desperately gathering armies to resist inevitable reprisals. Mark Antony, your loyal lieutenant and closest friend, moves swiftly to seize control. Grief-stricken yet calculating, he masterfully uses your funeral to turn Rome's citizens against your murderers. Standing before massive crowds, Antony dramatically displays your bloodied toga, pointing out each stab wound, vividly describing your brutal betrayal. His eloquence inflames emotions, crowds riot violently, demanding justice for Caesar. Overnight, assassins become public enemies, hunted mercilessly by furious mobs. But Antony isn't alone in exploiting the chaos. Young Octavian, your adopted heir and grandnephew, barely 18, arrives in Rome quietly yet determinedly. Many underestimate him, seeing only an inexperienced youth. They're profoundly mistaken. Beneath Octavian's quiet exterior burns fierce ambition, political shrewdness rivaling your own. Quickly, he gathers loyal supporters, including veteran soldiers fiercely devoted to Caesar's memory. A complex rivalry develops swiftly between Antony and Octavian, each vying to fill your immense void. Both claim to represent your legacy, yet distrust deeply permeates their uneasy alliance. To avoid immediate conflict, they form a fragile triumvirate with Lepidus, another influential general, dividing Rome's vast territories among themselves temporarily. Yet beneath cooperation simmers bitter resentment, suspicion, and inevitable betrayal. The triumvirate's first priority, vengeance against your murderers. Armies mobilize swiftly, civil war again engulfing Roman territories. The climactic Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE sees Antony and Octavian decisively crush Brutus and Cassius, effectively avenging your assassination. Both conspirators commit suicide, unwilling to surrender alive. Yet their deaths bring little peace. Instead, Rome fractures further, torn apart by continuing power struggles, ambition, and revenge. Antony and Octavian's rivalry soon resurfaces dramatically. Antony consolidates power in Egypt alongside Cleopatra, your former lover, now Antony's partner politically and romantically. Together, they create an Eastern power bloc threatening Rome's stability. Octavian skillfully exploits Roman fears, portraying Antony as Cleopatra's puppet, corrupted by Egyptian luxury, betraying Rome's traditional values. Propaganda campaigns ignite public outrage, setting the stage for renewed civil war. The decisive conflict comes in 31 BCE at Actium, a massive naval battle pitting Octavian's forces against Antony and Cleopatra's combined fleet. Octavian triumphs spectacularly, shattering Antony's navy, destroying his political credibility permanently. Antony and Cleopatra retreat desperately to Egypt, defeated, humiliated, their dream of Eastern Empire collapsing catastrophically. In Egypt, tragedy unfolds swiftly. Antony, believing Cleopatra dead, commits suicide, ending his turbulent life violently. Cleopatra, captured by Octavian's forces, chooses dramatic suicide as well, refusing to parade through Rome as conquered prize. Octavian executes Caesarion, your biological son, by Cleopatra, removing permanently your last direct heir, a ruthless move securing Octavian's future as Rome's undisputed leader. Returning triumphantly to Rome, Octavian, now Caesar Augustus, ushers in a new era, the Roman Empire. Ironically, your assassin's attempt to preserve the Republic accelerated monarchy's inevitable rise. Augustus rules as emperor for decades, transforming Rome profoundly, politically, culturally, historically. Rome thrives, expands dramatically, experiencing unprecedented peace and prosperity known famously as Pax Romana. Yet beneath prosperity lies uncomfortable truth. Republican freedoms once treasured vanish permanently under imperial monarchy. Your assassination, intended to safeguard democracy, instead destroyed it decisively. Roman senators become mere puppets, political debates meaningless. Rome transitions permanently into absolute monarchy, directly resulting from chaos your death ignited tragically. Historically, consequences extend far beyond Rome. Your assassination profoundly impacts governance globally, becoming history's enduring cautionary tale. Political philosophers examine your life and death meticulously, exploring relationships between democracy, tyranny, freedom, ambition, power. Your murder illustrates starkly democracy's fragility, vulnerability when internal divisions, ambition, distrust prevail unchecked. Culturally, your death inspires countless artists, writers, dramatists worldwide. Shakespeare immortalizes your assassination dramatically, vividly portraying betrayal's psychological complexities, political intrigues, profound consequences. Your famous phrase, et tu, brute, symbolizes eternally betrayal's emotional devastation, trust shattered irrevocably. Art, literature, theater continuously reference your tragedy, illustrating vividly humanity's darkest capabilities, betrayal, ambition, cruelty. Psychologically, historians and experts analyze continuously your assassination's implications. Conspirators' motives fascinate deeply: ideological commitment, personal ambition, jealousy, fear driving betrayal. Your assassination reveals unsettling truths: ambition's destructive power, betrayal's psychological impacts, human capacity for cruelty hidden beneath civilization's thin veneer. Educationally, your assassination provides profound teaching opportunities globally. Students study intensely democracy's vulnerabilities, authoritarianism's dangers, necessity maintaining democratic institutions, free speech, human rights protections. Your story underscores vividly citizens' responsibilities, maintaining vigilance, engagement, compassion, humility, critical ingredients preserving democratic freedoms against authoritarian threats. Politically, your death profoundly reshapes governance worldwide. Leaders, scholars, activists reference continuously your assassination's consequences: dangers, unchecked power, importance, institutional safeguards, transparency, accountability. Democracies worldwide strengthen safeguards explicitly to prevent tragedies like yours recurring. Your legacy profoundly impacts global governance, inspiring enduring commitments, protecting freedoms, democracy, human dignity. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your assassination's consequences reverberate profoundly through history, offering timeless lessons about ambition, power, betrayal, democracy's vulnerabilities, humanity's potential for both greatness and cruelty. Your life and death endure eternally as critical reminders about responsibility societies carry: maintaining democratic values, safeguarding human dignity, compassion, morality above ambition, ego, personal gain. Your story remains history's powerful cautionary tale, vividly illustrating democracy's fragility, dangers, ambition unchecked, importance, vigilance, preserving freedoms. Rome and humanity itself learn profound lessons from chaos. Your assassination unleashed tragically, committing globally toward more compassionate, responsible, democratic futures. This was your tragic legacy, the profound consequences Rome suffered after your assassination, shaping humanity profoundly as Julius Caesar. Throughout your turbulent life, filled with military triumphs, political upheaval, and dramatic victories, you've always projected confidence and charisma. Yet beneath the armor of ambition and power lay profound loneliness, complicated relationships, and deep emotional struggles. Your personal life, often overshadowed by your public accomplishments, reveals a deeply human story of ambition intertwined with isolation, power interwoven with profound solitude. Your earliest family relationships shaped your emotional life profoundly. Born into a noble yet financially modest family, you learned early that love and affection often took second place to ambition and political necessity. Your father died when you were young, forcing you into early responsibility, robbing you of a typical childhood. Relationships with your mother, Aurelia, and your aunt, Julia, were sources of stability, but even these were complicated, influenced by political calculations and social expectations more than genuine emotional connection. Your first marriage to Cornelia, daughter of your uncle's political ally, was both politically strategic and personally significant. While arranged initially for political reasons, genuine affection developed between you. Cornelia stood loyally by your side, even when Sulla, Rome's ruthless dictator, demanded your divorce. You bravely refused, risking death to protect your marriage, a rare moment where personal feelings outweighed political expediency. Her death years later devastated you deeply, marking the first profound emotional loss of your adult life. Following Cornelia's passing, your subsequent marriages, first to Pompeia, then to Calpurnia, highlighted complicated intersections between your political ambitions and personal life. Your marriage to Pompeia ended abruptly after scandal involving the Bona Dea rites. Though she herself was innocent, you divorced her swiftly, famously declaring, "Caesar's wife must be above suspicion." It wasn't lack of affection, but political necessity driving this decision, a recurring theme illustrating tensions between your private desires and public ambitions. Your final marriage to Calpurnia was marked by respect and affection, yet your relentless ambition and endless campaigns frequently separated you. While Calpurnia sincerely loved and cared for you, she often felt overshadowed by your political pursuits, constantly aware your heart belonged first to Rome, secondarily to any person. Her vivid premonitions of your assassination on the Ides of March illustrated her genuine care, yet your tragic dismissal of her warnings demonstrated your stubborn pride, political determination overriding even love and intimacy. Yet perhaps your most famous and complicated relationship was with Cleopatra, Egypt's brilliant, charismatic queen. Your affair with Cleopatra wasn't merely romantic, it was deeply political, strategic, filled with mutual admiration and calculated ambition. Initially drawn to Cleopatra's intelligence, charm, and political genius, you formed a powerful alliance cementing Roman-Egyptian relations. She bore your son Caesarion, symbolizing potential dynastic ambitions stretching beyond Rome's traditional borders. But Cleopatra was more than just an ally, she profoundly impacted your emotional world. Historians suggest genuine affection existed between you, despite political calculations underlying your relationship. Cleopatra's wit, intelligence, and sophistication fascinated you deeply, offering rare intellectual and emotional connection. Yet ultimately, your duty to Rome outweighed personal desires. Returning to Rome, you largely left Cleopatra behind, yet memories lingered profoundly, impacting your decisions, emotions, dreams until your final days. Your relationships with friends and political allies, particularly Pompey and Brutus, also reveal profound emotional complexities underlying your ambitious persona. Your early alliance and friendship with Pompey initially appeared genuine, rooted in mutual respect and political necessity. Your beloved daughter Julia married Pompey, cementing this bond personally and politically. Yet Julia's tragic early death removed crucial emotional ties, exposing deep fractures beneath political alliances. Your subsequent civil war against Pompey wasn't merely political, it represented deep emotional wounds, betrayal, shattered friendships transforming dramatically into bitter rivalry and profound personal loss. Brutus, famously remembered as your assassin, began as a protege, friend, almost surrogate son, your affection genuine, profound. You trusted him implicitly, mentoring him politically, emotionally, personally, investing deeply in his success. His ultimate betrayal, stabbing you mercilessly alongside fellow conspirators, devastated you emotionally far beyond physical pain. Your famous dying words, "Et tu, Brute," symbolize not merely political betrayal, but profound emotional devastation, shattering trust painfully built over years. Even among loyal followers, your personal connections were complicated. Mark Antony, fiercely loyal politically, maintained deep affection and admiration, Yet your relationship involved tensions, disagreements, subtle competition beneath surface camaraderie. Antony's later relationship with Cleopatra after your death symbolized personal complexity, emotions intertwined with political calculations, highlighting persistent tensions between love, ambition, loyalty, and betrayal haunting your life and relationships continually. Throughout your extraordinary life, profound loneliness accompanied relentless ambition. Despite vast crowds cheering your triumphs, immense popularity among citizens, fierce devotion from soldiers, genuine personal intimacy often eluded you. Constant pressures of leadership, endless political calculations, frequent betrayals, emotional disappointments gradually isolated you emotionally. Though outwardly charismatic, confident, powerful, inwardly profound loneliness marked your emotional landscape profoundly, hidden carefully behind political strength. Historically, your personal relationships reveal deep psychological complexities beneath your political legend. Historians, psychologists, and literary scholars analyze your emotional struggles intensively, providing critical insights into personal costs ambition exacts. Your complicated relationships, familial, romantic, political, illustrate vividly how ambition, political necessity, emotional isolation intertwine destructively, personally and historically. Your life's psychological insights profoundly impact understandings of leadership, ambition, loneliness, emotional costs inherent in relentless pursuit of power. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your personal life, filled with emotional complexities, profound loneliness, complicated relationships, offers profound reflections about humanity, ambition, power, emotional costs leaders endure. Your emotional struggles illustrate vividly dangers, ambition unchecked, importance balancing ambition with genuine human connection, compassion, morality. Your personal story remains a critical reminder that behind political legends exist profound emotional vulnerabilities, loneliness, humanity shared universally, regardless historical era or circumstances. Your personal legacy profoundly impacts society's understandings about emotional costs, ambition exacts, necessity balancing ambition, power with genuine emotional connection, compassion, humanity. Julius Caesar. Your personal life remains a critical reminder about humanity's shared emotional complexities, loneliness, vulnerability, genuine human connections, critical maintaining balanced, compassionate leadership throughout history. This was your deeply complex personal life, ambition intertwined profoundly with loneliness, complicated relationships, emotional struggles shaping your extraordinary journey as Julius Caesar. Your death marked the end of your life, but it was only the beginning of your eternal influence. The name Julius Caesar didn't merely pass into history, it echoed endlessly through cultures, languages, politics, art, literature, and even calendars. Your legacy proved far more enduring than your political rivals ever imagined, influencing humanity profoundly for millennia. Immediately following your assassination, Rome descended into chaos, but ironically, this chaos solidified your legend. Your murderers, hoping to extinguish your power, instead made you immortal. Your death transformed you from a political leader into a cultural symbol, a martyr whose legacy was endlessly debated, revered, feared, and remembered. Romans and later generations never stopped talking about Caesar. Politically, your assassination permanently altered Rome's trajectory. Your death triggered a brutal civil war, ending the Roman Republic and ushering in the Roman Empire under Augustus, your great-nephew and adopted heir. Rome's imperial era, inspired by your vision, dramatically reshaped Western civilization, influencing governance, law, infrastructure, and society for centuries. Modern concepts like centralized government, legal systems, and infrastructure networks owe profound debts to Rome's empire, direct consequences of your political legacy. Perhaps most famously, your name itself became a symbol of power. Future leaders, from Roman emperors like Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and Nero, all adopting the title Caesar, to medieval European monarchs claiming authority derived from Caesar, rendered as Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian, invoked your name explicitly as ultimate authority. Your legacy thus profoundly impacted global politics, symbolizing absolute power, imperial authority, political legitimacy worldwide. Culturally, your legacy influenced art, literature, and drama profoundly. William Shakespeare's famous play Julius Caesar immortalized your assassination vividly, illustrating betrayal's psychological complexities, ambition's consequences, and political intrigues, fascinating audiences globally. Shakespeare's Caesar popularized phrases, "Beware the Ides of March," et tu, Brute, forever embedded into cultural consciousness, endlessly quoted symbolically regarding betrayal, danger, ambition. Countless novels, films, operas, paintings, explored your life's dramatic events, constantly reimagining Caesar's story across different eras, perspectives, cultural contexts. Your own writings, the commentaries on the Gallic War, remain literary masterpieces studied worldwide. Historians praise your clear prose, vivid descriptions, strategic insights into warfare, politics, and society. Military strategists still analyze your tactics carefully, studying leadership, morale, logistic strategies, informing modern military doctrine. Your literary influence extends beyond historical documents. Your writing directly impacted language evolution, contributing Latin phrases, idioms, vocabulary still used globally today. Perhaps surprisingly, even the calendar itself owes profound debts to your legacy. Your reforms to Rome's chaotic, inaccurate calendar created the Julian calendar, named explicitly after you, which remained the global standard for centuries. The modern Gregorian calendar, currently used worldwide, evolved directly from your calendar reforms. Even today, months like July explicitly honor your legacy, your name forever embedded into daily life, time itself defined profoundly by Caesar's reforms. Psychologically, your legacy profoundly influenced understandings about ambition, leadership, human nature. Historians, philosophers, psychologists continuously analyze your life and death, offering critical insights into leadership psychology, charisma, ambition, paranoia, betrayal, loneliness, consequences ambition exacts personally, societally, historically. Your example profoundly influences educational understandings about responsible leadership, dangers, unchecked ambition, critical importance, balancing ambition, morality, emotional intelligence, compassion. Educationally, your legacy profoundly shapes curricula worldwide. Students study your life's dramatic events, military conquests, political triumphs, assassination, historical impacts, understanding vividly ambition's consequences, democracy's vulnerabilities, authoritarianism's dangers. Educators emphasize your story's profound lessons, reinforcing critically democratic values, human rights, transparency, accountability, moral integrity necessary preserving democratic societies globally. Your legacy deeply impacts political philosophy discussions globally. Philosophers analyze continuously your life, assassination, political strategies, consequences ambition exacts societally, historically. Your example profoundly informs debates about political ethics, responsible governance, balancing ambition, morality, democratic values. Your legacy shapes political ideologies, informing democratic movements globally, reinforcing critically democratic protections against authoritarianism's inherent dangers. Even popular culture constantly references Caesar symbolically. Your assassination remains symbolic warning against ambition, betrayal, political division dangers in contemporary political rhetoric, debates. Politicians worldwide invoke your legacy rhetorically, warnings about democracy's fragility, ambition's consequences, betrayal dangers inherent political systems worldwide. Caesar's legacy remains powerful rhetorical tool, cautionary symbol politically globally today. Socially, your legacy profoundly influences contemporary concepts about ambition, success, leadership. Modern business, political, military leaders invoke Caesar symbolically, warnings about ambition's consequences, emphasizing responsible leadership, emotional intelligence importance. Caesar's example illustrates vividly ambition's destructive potential, reinforcing globally critical responsibilities leaders carry maintaining compassion, morality, responsible governance practices. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your legacy profoundly impacts global cultures, languages, politics, philosophies, arts, educational practices, societal values. Your assassination, ironically intended extinguishing your power, instead immortalized your legend eternally. Caesar's legacy endures vividly, profoundly, influencing humanity continuously for millennia, shaping global understandings about ambition, leadership, democracy's vulnerabilities, authoritarianism's inherent dangers, humanity's potential greatness, cruelty simultaneously. Your eternal influence vividly illustrates humanity's profound complexities, ambition, betrayal, loneliness, emotional vulnerabilities underlying political power. Caesar's legacy remains powerful cautionary tale historically, culturally, psychologically, politically, symbolizing vividly humanity's responsibilities, maintaining democracy, protecting freedoms, valuing morality above ambition, compassion above ego, humility above pride, maintaining eternally vigilant against ambition's inherent dangers historically. Your extraordinary life profoundly shaped global history, influencing humanity eternally, culturally, politically, educationally, psychologically. Julius Caesar, your legacy endures vividly, profoundly, timelessly, symbolizing eternally humanity's critical responsibilities, maintaining democracy, protecting freedoms, valuing morality above ambition, preserving eternally compassionate, responsible societies historically. This was your extraordinary eternal legacy, profound cultural impacts continuously shaping global humanity as Julius Caesar. Your life is one of history's greatest examples of how immense ambition, charisma, intelligence, and strategic brilliance can intertwine with profound inner struggles, loneliness, insecurity, paranoia, and a relentless hunger for validation. Your psychology, deeply complex and endlessly studied, reveals the profound inner dynamics driving some of history's greatest triumphs and most tragic failures. From childhood, your psychological landscape was shaped by intense pressure, high expectations, and early experiences of instability. Born into a noble yet financially struggling family, your earliest lessons taught you that mere nobility wasn't enough. The world demanded power, wealth, influence, ambitions your family couldn't fully support financially, driving you relentlessly toward personal achievement. Your father's early death intensified this pressure dramatically, forcing you prematurely into leadership roles, imprinting lifelong drives for validation, respect, and success. Your early encounters with political violence further shaped your psychological development profoundly. Witnessing Rome's brutal political conflicts firsthand, Sulla's dictatorship, your uncle Marius's defeat, your own near-death experiences, impressed upon you harsh realities of ambition's dangerous consequences, instilling lifelong suspicion, vigilance, even paranoia. These traumatic experiences deeply impacted your inner world, reinforcing relentlessly cautious approaches toward relationships, politics, power dynamics throughout life. Yet your relentless ambition, perhaps your most defining psychological trait, emerged vividly from early insecurities. Deeply aware of your family's precarious financial and social standing, ambition became psychological compensation, a relentless drive toward achievement, power, respect intended, filling emotional voids created by early rejection, instability. Your ambition, while politically and militarily effective, masked deeper psychological vulnerabilities, loneliness, insecurity, desperate needs for admiration, validation, fueling relentless personal and political conquests. Your renowned charisma was simultaneously genuine and calculated. Gifted naturally with extraordinary intelligence, eloquence, emotional intelligence, your charisma wasn't merely superficial charm, it represented profound psychological understanding of human desires, vulnerabilities, motivations. Your charismatic persona allowed skillful manipulation of political allies, soldiers, citizens, even enemies, enabling remarkable leadership achievements. Yet your charisma also masked profound emotional isolation, maintaining carefully constructed public persona hiding deeper insecurities, vulnerabilities, loneliness lurking beneath political bravado. Your tendency toward risk-taking, illustrated repeatedly throughout life, boldly defying Sulla, confronting pirates fearlessly, crossing Rubicon decisively, was both psychological strength and dangerous vulnerability. Psychologists describe this as calculated impulsivity, intelligent risk-taking driven by ambition, confidence, desire for validation, yet dangerously ignoring potential consequences. This psychological trait enabled extraordinary military, political triumphs, yet ultimately contributed decisively toward tragic assassination, illustrating vividly ambition's psychological complexities, strength intertwined dangerously with vulnerability. Paranoia increasingly defined your psychological state as power grew. Initially justified real assassination attempts, constant political conspiracies, betrayals experienced repeatedly, your paranoia intensified dangerously, profoundly impacting leadership effectiveness. Friends, allies became suspected enemies, trusted relationships deteriorated, loneliness intensified dramatically. Your paranoia, exacerbated profoundly by isolation inherent in absolute power, ultimately compromised psychological clarity, decision-making effectiveness, contributing decisively toward tragic assassination events. Your relationships, both personal and political, further illustrate profound psychological complexities beneath political legend. Your marriages, initially driven by genuine affection, yet increasingly defined by political necessity, illustrate vividly internal tensions between genuine emotional desires, relentless ambition driving ruthless personal decisions. Your relationship with Cleopatra, simultaneously genuine affection, calculated political alliance, illustrates vividly inner struggles, balancing ambition, emotional desires, political necessity, reflecting profound psychological complexities characterizing Caesar's personal life. Your assassination symbolically revealed profound psychological vulnerabilities beneath outward strength. Your famous last words, "Et tu, Brute?" dramatically captured emotional devastation. Betrayal inflicted psychologically trusted friends betraying profoundly shattered inner emotional world. Your assassination wasn't merely physical destruction, it represented profound psychological tragedy, illustrating vividly ambition's destructive potential, inner loneliness, insecurities, masked behind charismatic, powerful political persona. Historically, your psychological complexities profoundly influence global understandings about ambition, leadership psychology. Historians, psychologists, philosophers continuously analyze your inner struggles, offering critical insights into authoritarian leaders' psychological traits, charisma masking insecurity, ambition intertwined dangerously with loneliness, paranoia destroying emotional intimacy, relationships. Your example profoundly influences global education, illustrating vividly importance, emotional intelligence, psychological awareness, compassionate leadership historically, societally. Modern psychological research frequently references your life, offering profound insights into leadership psychology globally. Your inner struggles, ambitions, destructive potential, loneliness, inherent authoritarian leadership offer critical lessons psychologically globally, importance balancing ambition, morality, emotional intelligence, compassionate leadership historically, societally. Your psychological insights profoundly influence global leadership education, emphasizing critical responsibilities leaders carry, maintaining emotional health, morality, compassion, humility, above ambition, pride, ego. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your psychological complexities, ambition intertwined dangerously with loneliness, charisma masking profound insecurities, paranoia destroying emotional intimacy, provide profound global insights psychologically, historically, societally. Your inner struggles illustrate vividly dangers, ambition unchecked, importance balancing ambition with morality, emotional intelligence, compassionate leadership globally. Your psychological legacy profoundly influences global understandings about leadership psychology, emphasizing critical responsibilities leaders carry, maintaining psychological health, morality, compassion historically, societally. Your extraordinary psychological insights profoundly shaped global understandings about leadership psychology historically, societally, illustrating vividly dangers, ambition unchecked, importance balancing ambition with morality, emotional intelligence, compassionate leadership globally. Julius Caesar, your profound psychological complexities remain critically influential historically, societally, offering timeless lessons psychologically, politically, historically, globally. This was your profound psychological legacy, inner struggles vividly illustrating ambition's dangers, importance compassionate leadership historically, societally as Julius Caesar. Your life, Julius Caesar, extends far beyond the historical borders of ancient Rome, resonating deeply and urgently into the modern world. Today, more than ever, your story serves as a powerful warning, a timeless lesson in the complexities of ambition, leadership, democracy, and the dangers lurking within unchecked power. From political discourse and military strategy to education, culture, and leadership psychology, your experiences and choices remain strikingly relevant. In contemporary politics, your example is frequently cited as a cautionary tale regarding the fragility of democracy. Modern democracies continually face threats from ambitious leaders who exploit political divisions, populism, and public dissatisfaction to amass unchecked power, just as you once did in Rome. Politicians, historians, and educators around the world reference your rise and fall to emphasize the critical importance of democratic institutions, transparency, and accountability to prevent authoritarianism. Leaders today regularly invoke your story, both positively and negatively, to illustrate their points about governance. Some use your name as synonymous with strong, decisive leadership. Others cite you as the ultimate example of power corrupting, a warning of ambition's destructive potential. Your legacy thus provides a rich narrative for contemporary debates about responsible leadership, ethics and governance, and the careful balancing of authority and accountability. Your assassination particularly serves as an enduring lesson on the consequences of political violence and division. Modern political rhetoric frequently references the Ides of March and your betrayal to caution against escalating polarization and the dangers of political conflict. Your death vividly illustrates how deep-seated resentment, fear, and distrust within political systems can erupt into violence, destabilizing societies and triggering catastrophic consequences. In military strategy and leadership, your experiences remain profoundly influential. Military academies worldwide study your tactical brilliance, particularly your swift campaigns in Gaul, your strategic daring at the Rubicon, and decisive victories like Pharsalus and Alesia. Your commentaries on the Gallic War continue to be essential reading, influencing modern military doctrine, logistics planning, and strategic thinking, emphasizing clarity, decisiveness, adaptability, and the critical importance of morale and leadership integrity. In the realm of psychology and leadership studies, your life provides a textbook example of both charismatic leadership and dangerous narcissism. Psychologists frequently analyze your ability to inspire loyalty, mobilize supporters, and command authority, while also highlighting your vulnerabilities, intense ambition, masking deep insecurity, paranoia disrupting trusted relationships, and loneliness underlying your powerful public persona. Modern leadership training draws heavily from your example, emphasizing the crucial importance of emotional intelligence, compassion, psychological awareness, and responsible governance practices. Educational institutions globally use your story to teach critical thinking, historical understanding, and civic responsibility. Students studying your life are encouraged to question the nature of power, ambition, and morality, engaging with complex ethical dilemmas like balancing personal ambition with public responsibility or understanding the consequences of decisions driven purely by political expediency. Your assassination serves as a vivid reminder to students worldwide about democracy's vulnerabilities, emphasizing the active role citizens must play in maintaining democratic systems, fostering tolerance, dialogue, and peaceful conflict resolution. In contemporary culture and media, your legacy endures vividly. Popular films, television shows, historical novels, and theater productions continuously reimagine your dramatic life, making your story accessible to modern audiences. This constant cultural presence keeps your lessons alive, resonating deeply with new generations who see your ambitions and struggles mirrored in contemporary political dramas, power struggles, and leadership crises worldwide. Your legacy also influences modern discussions around misinformation and propaganda, two tools you expertly wielded to secure and maintain power. Today, as societies grapple with the proliferation of misinformation through digital media, your example serves as a stark warning of propaganda's potential to manipulate public opinion, distort reality, and undermine democratic systems. Media literacy education worldwide uses your historical example to emphasize critical thinking, skepticism, and awareness of propaganda tactics, helping protect societies from modern misinformation threats. Modern ethical debates about war, conquest, and colonization frequently reference your brutal conquest of Gaul and its devastating human costs. Historians and ethicists invoke your actions to critically examine the morality of imperial expansion, military violence, and human rights abuses, drawing direct parallels between ancient conquests and contemporary conflicts worldwide. Your legacy thus contributes significantly to global conversations about moral responsibilities during warfare, human dignity, and the lasting impacts of military aggression on conquered populations. Even contemporary business leadership and corporate ethics draw lessons from your life. Business schools worldwide study your leadership style to emphasize the critical balance between ambition, vision, ethics, and emotional intelligence in corporate leadership. Your successes illustrate the potential rewards of decisiveness, strategic thinking, and charisma, while your ultimate downfall underscores the importance of humility, transparency, ethical leadership, and emotional intelligence in maintaining sustainable success and fostering healthy organizational cultures. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your enduring relevance in modern times, vividly illustrates humanity's timeless struggles with ambition, power, democracy, leadership responsibility, and morality. Your extraordinary life, with all its triumphs and tragedies, serves as a profound cautionary example, emphasizing the critical importance of safeguarding democratic institutions, responsible leadership, compassion, and ethical governance in contemporary societies. Today's world, grappling with rapid change, political division, misinformation, and complex global challenges, continues to find profound lessons in your story. Your enduring legacy reminds us vividly of democracy's fragility, the necessity of humility and leadership, the destructive potential of unchecked ambition, and humanity's eternal responsibility to value morality, compassion, and democratic freedoms above power and personal gain. Your life remains profoundly relevant, continuously guiding contemporary societies worldwide, emphasizing timeless lessons about leadership, democracy, ambition, and humanity itself. This is your enduring relevance in the modern world, a vivid, powerful reminder of humanity's eternal struggles with ambition, democracy, power, and responsibility, drawn directly from your extraordinary life as Julius Caesar. Reflecting on your extraordinary life, marked by unmatched ambition, relentless pursuit of power, remarkable achievements, and devastating tragedy, reveals profound lessons for all generations. Your legacy transcends the boundaries of history, resonating deeply into eternity as a timeless message about ambition's complexities, the fragility of democracy, responsible leadership, and humanity's eternal struggles with power and morality. At the heart of your life lies ambition, your greatest strength and most destructive vulnerability. From early childhood, driven by family expectations and personal insecurities, ambition pushed you toward greatness, driving you to conquer Gaul, seize Rome, and reshape history dramatically. Yet that same ambition blinded you to the emotional costs, isolating you from true friendships, meaningful relationships, and genuine happiness. Your life vividly illustrates ambition's dual nature, how it inspires extraordinary accomplishments while simultaneously carrying enormous emotional and moral costs. Your ambition, unchecked by humility or compassion, ultimately led to your tragic downfall. The assassination you suffered wasn't merely a political act, it was a profound moral judgment on the consequences of absolute power. Betrayed by those you trusted deeply, your death symbolized vividly ambition's ultimate cost: personal destruction, shattered relationships, profound emotional devastation. History remembers your assassination clearly, warning eternally of the dangers when ambition eclipses morality, humanity, and emotional intelligence. Politically, your life and death illustrate democracy's inherent fragility. The Roman Republic, despite its wealth and power, collapsed rapidly under your influence, demonstrating vividly how vulnerable democratic systems remain when faced with charismatic leaders exploiting divisions, populism, and personal ambition. Your legacy emphasizes vividly the eternal responsibility citizens carry maintaining democratic values, vigilance, compassion, dialogue, and transparency against authoritarian threats. Democracy's preservation demands constant effort, civic engagement, moral integrity, a timeless message drawn directly from your dramatic life. Psychologically, your story reveals profound insights about leadership, charisma, loneliness, and emotional vulnerability beneath political power. Your charisma, while powerful, masked profound insecurities, emotional isolation, and inner loneliness. The emotional price leaders often pay for ambition and authority. Modern leadership psychology continuously studies your example, emphasizing the critical importance of emotional intelligence, compassion, psychological awareness, humility, and effective leadership, drawn directly from your tragic personal struggles. Culturally, your legacy profoundly shapes global narratives about power, betrayal, leadership, and morality. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, art, literature, films continuously explore your life, dramatically, vividly illustrating ambition's consequences, betrayal's emotional devastation, democracy's fragility. Your eternal cultural presence underscores humanity's endless fascination with power's complexities, ambition's psychological dynamics, and historical lessons humanity must continuously learn to avoid repeating past tragedies. Educationally, your life remains profoundly relevant worldwide, emphasizing critical lessons about responsible governance, civic engagement, moral integrity, democratic responsibilities. Your example teaches students vividly the importance of balancing personal ambition with compassion, humility, ethical leadership, civic responsibility, protecting democracy's freedoms. Your legacy profoundly shapes global education, emphasizing timeless lessons humanity must continuously learn, guarding eternally against ambition's destructive potential historically. Socially and politically, your legacy profoundly influences global governance practices, emphasizing critical responsibilities leaders carry: maintaining morality, emotional intelligence, transparency, accountability, compassion. Historically, your life illustrates vividly dangers unchecked power poses societally, historically, psychologically, reinforcing globally the critical importance of democratic institutions, civic responsibilities, responsible governance protecting freedoms, morality above ambition, compassion above ego. Historically. Ultimately, Julius Caesar, your extraordinary life delivers profound timeless messages vividly relevant eternally for humanity itself. Your legacy symbolizes vividly humanity's eternal struggles, balancing ambition, morality, compassion, democracy's vulnerabilities, responsibilities, maintaining freedoms. Historically. Your life, filled with immense triumphs, devastating tragedies, emotional complexities, offers powerful global reminders eternally relevant historically, societally, psychologically, politically, globally, today. Your timeless message emphasizes vividly ambition's dual nature, capable of extraordinary achievements, yet profoundly destructive, unchecked by morality, humility, compassion. Your life illustrates vividly democracy's fragility, eternally vulnerable when leaders exploit divisions, populism, ambitions unchecked morally. Your personal struggles emphasize vividly psychological importance. Leaders must maintain emotional intelligence, compassion, psychological awareness, humility, essential, effective, responsible leadership, historically, societally, globally, today. Caesar's eternal relevance vividly symbolizes humanity's critical responsibilities, maintaining democratic institutions, safeguarding freedoms, valuing morality above ambition, compassion above ego, humility above pride, historically, societally, globally today. Your life profoundly shapes global education, cultural narratives, political philosophies, psychological understandings about leadership eternally, emphasizing vividly humanity's eternal responsibilities, maintaining morality, compassion, responsible governance, historically, societally, globally today. Your extraordinary legacy remains eternally relevant historically, societally, globally, powerful reminder humanity's eternal responsibilities, maintaining democracy, safeguarding freedoms, balancing ambition with morality, compassion, historically, globally today. Julius Caesar, your life eternally delivers powerful messages vividly relevant historically, societally, globally today, offering profound lessons humanity must eternally learn historically. This was your extraordinary timeless message, profoundly illustrating ambition's complexities, democracy's vulnerabilities, leadership's responsibilities, humanity's eternal struggles, balancing power, morality, compassion, historically, societally, globally, eternally, as Julius Caesar. You don't get to choose where you're born, but fate doesn't just place you into a royal court, it drops you into the center of a nation-sized power struggle, where assassinations are casual, betrayal is standard, and the price for failure is carved in blood. You're born Yin Zhang, future emperor of China, though at the time, you're just a child surrounded by snakes, all watching, waiting, calculating how to use you or eliminate you. The year is 259 BCE. The Warring States period is in full swing. 7 kingdoms are tearing each other apart like wolves over a carcass, each hoping to unify the fractured land under its own flag. You're born in Handan, the capital of your family's enemy, the state of Zhao. You're technically a hostage, a bargaining chip, one misstep away from being tossed aside or executed if the political winds shift. Your father, a Qin prince named Yiren, was sent to Zhao as part of a diplomatic agreement. While in exile, he met your mother, Lady Zhao, a beautiful concubine tied to a wealthy merchant with political ambitions. Whether it was romance, strategy, or convenience that brought you into the world doesn't matter. You're here now, and your life immediately becomes a game of survival. Even as an infant, you sense the tension. You grow up hearing whispers in the corridors, watching soldiers at the gates who may one day turn on you. Your caretakers alternate between loyalty and fear, knowing that serving you could lead to glory or to execution. You're born into a palace, but it feels more like a prison carved in jade. When you're still a toddler, your father is smuggled out of Zhao and returns to the Qin capital of Shenyang. A few years later, political tides shift, and by some miracle or manipulation, your father becomes king. You, still young, are brought back to Qin. Suddenly, you're no longer a political liability. You're heir to a throne, a future ruler of one of China's most powerful and aggressive kingdoms. But power, as you quickly learn, never comes without a cost. Your father dies when you're just 13, a child on paper, but now a king in name. You are crowned King Zheng of Qin, 13 years old, and already wearing the heaviest crown in all of China, but no one expects you to actually rule. That job goes to your regent, Lu Buwei, the same merchant who once gifted your mother to your father. Some even whisper that he's your real father. You hear it, of course, how could you not? Every whisper cuts deeper than a blade. Lu Buwei acts like he's your mentor, your protector, but behind the smiles, he's maneuvering for influence, making deals in your name, gathering power while you sit in study halls, memorizing Confucian classics and Sun Tzu's battle doctrines. You learn quickly that knowledge is power, but secrets are more powerful. You begin to listen more than you speak, observe more than you act. Over the next few years, you grow not just in age, but in mind. You study the chaos unfolding across China. You learn geography, diplomacy, military strategy, and how to detect a lie by watching someone's eyes. You stop trusting gifts, stop believing in flattery, and begin to understand the brutal arithmetic of ruling. Loyalty is bought, respect is earned, and fear is the only thing people never fake. But Lu Buwei isn't your only problem. As you age into your teenage years, another figure enters the palace, Lao Ai, a courtier installed suspiciously close to your mother. Their relationship is soon whispered about behind screens and silk drapes. Rumors turn to facts. Lao Ai is not only your mother's lover, he's building his own faction within the court. He wants power, and if necessary, he'll go through you to get it. You're 17 when it happens. Lao Ai's forces make their move, an attempted coup right inside your palace walls. For a moment, your fate teeters on a knife's edge. But you're ready. You've been preparing for this your whole life. With the support of loyal generals, you strike back decisively. Lao Ai is captured, executed. His supporters are rounded up and purged. Your mother is disgraced and quietly removed from the center of power. After that, something in you hardens, permanently. You're no longer just a king in name, you're now a ruler in truth, and not a ceremonial one. You begin centralizing power, cutting off factions, stripping titles from those who hesitate to kneel. Lu Bue, your former regent, is next. Despite his earlier help or manipulation, you exile him. Some say he commits suicide out of disgrace. You don't flinch, you don't mourn. You simply keep moving forward. By your early 20s, your vision is crystal clear. You will do what no ruler before you has done. You will end the centuries of chaos. You will crush the other 6 kingdoms. You will unite China, not through diplomacy or marriage alliances, but through iron, fire, and absolute rule. This is your beginning, a child born into treachery, a boy who became king in a world that wanted to use or destroy him, and now a man who intends to carve his name into the bones of history. This is your life as Qin Shi Huang. You're barely out of your 20s, but already you've lived the lives of 10 men. You've outplayed your regent, crushed a traitor in your own household, and consolidated your throne. Now, the goal is no longer survival, it's domination, the kind that lasts for centuries, the kind where your name becomes the name. The warring states have ravaged China for over 200 years. 7 kingdoms, Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, Wei, and Qin, locked in endless conflict. Endless bloodshed, shifting alliances, betrayals that would make a snake blush. You decide it ends with you. And you sit you're not gonna wait. Qian is already a powerhouse, militarily disciplined, economically stable, and rich in iron, the lifeblood of war. But what you bring to the battlefield is more than numbers. You bring obsession. Every lesson you've absorbed since childhood, every deception, every survival tactic, every military doctrine, you now unleash with surgical precision. First on your list, the state of Han, the weakest of the 7, a test run. Your generals march with terrifying efficiency, led by a brilliant strategist named Wang Jian. Han folds quickly. There's little glory in the conquest, just clean, brutal efficiency. No mercy, no resistance. Just 1 kingdom down, 6 to go. Next, Zhao, the state where you were born, where your mother hid her shame, where you were once a political pawn. The irony isn't lost on you. You return not as a prisoner, but as its executioner. Zhao resists fiercely. Their army is large, their generals capable, but your discipline outmatches their bravado. You break them down slowly, relentlessly. You use deception, psychological warfare, and terrain to your advantage. You trap their forces, split their command, and grind them into dust. By 228 BCE, Zhao is yours. You move on to Wei, then Yan, both falling in brutal, calculated campaigns. Your armies are like a machine, uniformed, ruthlessly efficient, and utterly loyal. The keen war machine doesn't retreat. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't forgive. It conquers. Word spreads through the remaining kingdoms like wildfire. Qin is unstoppable. Villages surrender before your soldiers even arrive. Other states try bribery, flattery, under-the-table deals. You laugh, then crush them anyway. Fear is your new language, and every general, noble, and peasant speaks it fluently now. But then comes the real challenge, Chu. Chu isn't just powerful, it's massive. A sprawling kingdom with deep coffers, experienced armies, and a long, proud history. It's everything you've been working toward, but they don't go down easy. At first, you underestimate them. You send a General Li Xin with a relatively small force, confident, arrogant, maybe even bored. It's your first real mistake. Chu obliterates them. For a moment, the unbreakable image of Qin cracks. The other kingdoms pause, watching, waiting. Maybe you can bleed after all. But this isn't the same boy who survived court assassins. This is the man who buried his enemies alive. And you learn fast. You recall your most experienced general, the old and cautious Wang Jian. He warns you victory in Chu will require patience, manpower, and overwhelming force. Not glory, not cleverness, just crushing, unrelenting pressure. You agree, you swallow your pride, and then you give him 600,000 men. The campaign against Chu is slow, methodical, brutal. Your forces don't just fight, they wear Chu down. Villages are starved, cities are razed, rebels are executed en masse. You don't fight a war, you break a civilization. By 223 BCE, Chu falls. 1 kingdom remains, Qi. But Qi has already seen the writing on the wall. They don't fight. They surrender without a sword drawn. Some call it cowardice, you call it smart. By 221 BCE, it's set's done. For the first time in recorded history, the vast territory we now call China is united under one ruler. You. You are no longer King Zheng of Qian. You name yourself Shi Huangdi, the first emperor. Not king, not lord, not prince. Emperor. The word doesn't set exist until you create it. You discard the old feudal system, replacing it with centralized rule. You standardize currency, weights, and measures. You impose a single written script across all regions. For the first time, people in the far corners of China, who once couldn't even understand each other, can now read the same laws, count the same coins, answer to the same emperor. You build roads, thousands of miles of them. You connect the empire with veins of stone, making sure armies, messengers, and tax collectors can reach every town, every village, every mountain outpost. You also begin building walls, not just one, but many, linking together to form a vast defensive barrier in the north, the prototype of what later generations will call the Great Wall. It's a message to the world: Qin does not bend, Qin does not yield. But you don't stop there. You launch a campaign against thought itself. To ensure loyalty, you suppress dissent. You distrust scholars who argue, poets who question, historians who glorify the past. You're building a new world. There's no room for nostalgia. The 100 schools of thought, banned. Confucian texts, burned. Those who resist, buried alive or silenced permanently. Critics call it tyranny. You call it unity. After centuries of chaos, of brother killing brother, of kingdoms rising and falling like leaves in a storm, you bring order. Ruthless, terrifying, but unbreakable order. You have forged an empire out of ash and blood, and you've carved your name into the bones of history. This was your conquest. The unification of a broken land, and the beginning of something far greater. The year is 221 BCE, and you now sit upon a throne no man has ever occupied, not just king of Qin, but emperor of all under heaven. For the first time in history, China is united under a single sovereign, and that sovereign is you. But unifying the land is only the beginning. Now you must unify its spirit, its people, its will. You waste no time. First, you get rid of the old nobility. The aristocrats who once ruled individual kingdoms like gods in their own little heavens, gone. You strip them of their power, uproot them from their ancestral lands, and force them to relocate to your capital in Shenyang. There, under your watchful eye, they become harmless decorations, beautiful birds in golden cages, posing no threat to your authority. You replace them with loyal administrators, people selected not by bloodline, but by merit and obedience. These are men who owe their careers, their lives, and their families' safety to your rule. You create China's first true bureaucracy, a system that doesn't rely on clan loyalty, but on imperial command. It's efficient, hierarchical, and utterly under your control. Next, you unify thought, or rather, you purge it. You've seen what philosophy does. You've seen the way Confucians romanticize the past, preaching about virtue, ritual, and rulers who should serve the people. That kind of talk threatens everything you've built. You aren't interested in what came before, you're building a new world. So you outlaw the 100 schools of thought, you order the burning of thousands of books, texts on poetry, philosophy, history, all swept away in flames. Only works on agriculture, medicine, and your own laws are spared. And it doesn't stop with books. You target the scholars themselves. The loudest critics, the idealists, the stubborn, hundreds are buried alive. You send a message, one stronger than any decree. In this empire, knowledge does not challenge power, it serves it. You reshape daily life too. No more local coinage, there's now a standard currency. No more regional scripts, you enforce one system of writing across the empire. Axle lengths on carts are standardized to match the width of your new roads. Even the width of bricks is controlled. A nation of chaos becomes a nation of rules. Precise, efficient, predictable. But control isn't set enough. You want permanence. You order monuments built not for the gods, but for your legacy. You envision an empire so vast, so awe-inspiring, that it will last 10,000 generations. You command the construction of massive palaces, imperial roads, defensive walls, canals. You move mountains, literally cutting through stone and redirecting rivers to fuel your vision. The labor force, millions of peasants, prisoners, and conscripts, they work day and night, many to their deaths. It's said the Great Wall eats men faster than any army. You don't deny it. You see it as the price of greatness. Mortals die, but the empire, your empire, will endure. Fear becomes your most reliable tool. People speak your name with awe and terror. You issue decrees without debate. Your face appears on seals, banners, coins. You become not just emperor but almost divine, an earthly bridge between the people and the heavens. You change the language of power itself. No one refers to themselves with the same words they use for you. Where kings once called themselves benevolent or noble, you create a new title, Huangdi, a word never used before, combining the mythical rulers of ancient times with the idea of divine rule. You are the first emperor, the axis of the world, the still center around which all turns. But behind the robes, the ceremonies, and the armies, behind the thousands of laws, the executions, and the symbols, something stirs. A whisper, a restlessness, a deep and growing unease. Because absolute control comes at a cost. People may obey, but they do not love. They respect, but they do not trust. In every corner of the empire, beneath the polished surface, discontent simmers. Peasants whisper about heavy taxes and brutal labor quotas. Former nobles dream of restoration. Scholars mourn the burning of books. Soldiers grumble about endless deployments. But none of this reaches you directly. You're insulated by layers of officials who tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. In their eagerness to please, they shield you from the empire's cracks that grow wider with each passing year. And then there sits your own body. Despite your strength, your stamina, your iron will, you are still flesh and blood, and flesh, no matter how regal, eventually fails. You begin to age, and with age comes obsession. You become haunted by a single, terrifying thought that your rule, your order, your empire might die with you. So you begin to chase immortality. You consult alchemists, mystics, dream interpreters. You send envoys to distant islands in search of elixirs and divine lands where death holds no sway. You drink concoctions made of mercury, convinced they will preserve your life even as they slowly poison your body. You retreat deeper into superstition. The first emperor, once a war-hardened realist, a ruthless visionary, now wanders his empire chasing legends, because to lose control over death, that would be the one failure you cannot accept. But the truth is unavoidable. You may have tamed an empire, rewritten laws, restructured society, and redefined kingship, but you are still a man, and men die. Still, you press forward. You command the building of your tomb, a structure unlike anything the world has ever seen. A subterranean palace sealed beneath earth and guarded by an army of terracotta soldiers, thousands of life-sized warriors, each unique, each facing east, to guard you for eternity. It is your final masterpiece, your last fortress. A place where even death will have to knock before entering. You are the first emperor, ruler of all beneath the heavens, and the thought of it all slipping through your fingers, your empire, your legacy, your body terrifies you more than war ever did. You faced assassins, rebellions, impossible odds on the battlefield. But this death is something you can't outmaneuver, can't intimidate, can't legislate into obedience. And so, in your final years, your greatest battle isn't against rival kings, it's against time itself. The pursuit of immortality consumes you. You no longer trust the old methods of longevity, herbs, meditation, restraint. You want something more, something potent, eternal. Your court becomes flooded with alchemists, magicians, and con men, each promising elixirs that will grant you life beyond death. You give them riches, land, protection. In return, they give you potions laced with mercury, arsenic, and gods know what else. You drink them all. You swallow them like commandments. And slowly, they begin to unmake you. Your body starts to betray you. Your hands tremble, your speech slows, your skin breaks out in lesions. You feel tired, but not the kind of tired that a night's rest fixes. It's deeper, rotting. But still, you demand more elixirs, more answers, more expeditions to the fabled Isles of the Immortals, mythical lands said to lie across the Eastern Sea, untouched by death. You send hundreds of men, explorers, priests, generals, to search for these islands. Most never return. Some do, empty-handed and terrified. A few lie, claiming storms blocked the way or the path disappeared into mist. You begin to suspect them. Maybe they're hiding the truth from you. Maybe they found immortality and are keeping it for themselves. This is when the paranoia begins. You've ruled through fear for so long, it's hard to remember who truly serves you and who only pretends. You begin seeing betrayal everywhere. You change your palace routes daily. You sleep in different rooms each night. You stop trusting your advisors, then your doctors, then your own guards. Even your closest officials begin to feel the chill of your suspicion. You demand detailed reports on their families, their spending, their expressions during courts. Some disappear quietly, others are made examples of. Outside the palace walls, your empire still looks stable. The roads function. The officials issue decrees in your name. Taxes are collected, but underneath, the structure is groaning. Cracks form along every beam. The people grow restless. Your relentless labor projects, walls, tombs, canals, require an endless supply of hands and backs. Peasants are worked to death, soldiers are whipped for hesitation, entire villages are displaced, and every brick laid bears not just the weight of your ambitions, but the bodies of those crushed beneath them. Still, your focus is elsewhere. You obsess over omens. A meteor falls in the east, and it's reported that someone etched your name into it, along with the words, "The first emperor shall die, and his land shall be divided." You order the meteor ground into dust, the village nearest to where it landed, erased. Every man, woman, and child executed for letting such a prophecy exist. But you can set grind fate into powder. You feel it closing in. Your final years are spent on the move. You no longer feel safe staying in one place, so you begin a massive imperial tour, traveling the empire by chariot in a procession so vast it takes weeks to organize and months to move. Your physicians follow you. So do your alchemists. The entourage is filled with carts carrying potions, scrolls, protective talismans, anything to ward off the inevitable. You grow more withdrawn, you stop appearing at public ceremonies, you refuse visitors, your courtiers whisper about your condition, but no one dares say the word dying. To speak it would be treason. Then, during the summer of 210 BCE, somewhere near the eastern coast in present-day Hebei province, your body finally gives out. Quietly. Alone. Far from the capital. The man who built an empire and chased eternal life falls victim to the one enemy he could never defeat. Your death is not announced immediately. Your most trusted official, Li Si, panics. The empire is too fragile, too dependent on your image of divine strength, so he hides your death for weeks. He orders carts to be filled with fish to mask the stench of decay. He forges your final decrees. He sends messengers in your name. All the while, your body decomposes in secret. And the moment your death is confirmed, truly confirmed, the empire begins to unravel. Factions within the court move quickly. Li Si conspires with another powerful eunuch, Zhao Gao, to alter your succession. Your intended heir, Fusu, your stern and idealistic son, is tricked into committing suicide. In his place, your younger and more easily manipulated son, Huhai, becomes second emperor. A puppet, controlled by men you once trusted. The very structure you built to last forever begins to collapse before you've even been buried. But your tomb, that sips something else. The workers you ordered decades earlier had been toiling non-stop. Beneath a mountain lies your final project, a sprawling underground world made to mirror your empire. Rivers of mercury, sealing constellations carved in stone, traps to kill grave robbers. And guarding it all, an entire army of terracotta soldiers, each carved with unique faces, armor, and postures. Thousands of them, all facing east, all ready to fight for you in the afterlife. It is your final act of control. A mausoleum not just to preserve your body, but to immortalize your idea. You may have died in pursuit of immortality, but in your own twisted way, you achieved it. No emperor will ever match your name in sheer ambition. No ruler will ever unite China the same way. For good or ill, you created the idea of China. And though your body rotted on the road, your legacy would linger like a shadow over every dynasty to come. You wanted to live forever. And in some ways, you do. Despite repeated warnings, you ignore superstition. A seer once urged caution, famously telling you to beware the Ides of March. Even your wife Calpurnia dreams of your death, begging you to remain home. But pride clouds your judgment. You refuse to appear fearful, determined to demonstrate strength by attending the Senate as usual. After all, Rome must see you're unafraid, invincible. That morning, unease grips Rome. Senators gather nervously, exchanging furtive glances, speaking quietly. Beneath the surface of respect hides jealousy, resentment, and fear of your growing power. They worry you seek monarchy, ending Rome's beloved republic permanently. Rumors spread swiftly, whispers of conspiracy trickling through marble halls. You step confidently from your home, greeting citizens warmly, masking lingering unease. Your bodyguards accompany you initially, yet halfway to the Senate, you dismiss them, declaring confidently, Rome needs no bodyguards to protect Caesar. It's a reckless decision, driven by pride, a decision you'll regret forever. Entering Pompey's theater, temporary home of the Senate, you greet senators cheerfully, unaware betrayal hides behind friendly smiles. They rise respectfully, yet tension fills the room palpably. You're guided toward your usual seat, placed before a statue of Pompey, your former ally turned enemy, a haunting irony you fail to notice. A senator, Tillius Cimber, approaches petitioning clemency for his brother. Politely, you refuse. Suddenly, senators crowd closely, suffocatingly. Confused, annoyed, you turn sharply. What violence is this? Your heart pounds anxiously. Before you can react, hand seize your toga roughly, pulling violently. A sharp blade pierces deeply into your flesh, pain explodes instantly, disbelief overwhelming you. You stagger, stunned, turning desperately. Senators you trusted, friends, allies, men you elevated personally, stand holding bloody daggers, eyes blazing with hatred. A nightmare unfolding before you. More blades plunge repeatedly into your body, one after another, merciless, relentless. You fight desperately, courageously, yet betrayal crushes your spirit utterly. Among attackers, you glimpse Brutus, your protégé, trusted confidant, almost a son to you. His blade plunges mercilessly, your heart shatters emotionally, betrayal worse than physical pain. Through blood-soaked lips, you utter famously, "Et tu, Brute? Even you, Brutus?" Strength drains rapidly. Legs buckle beneath you, body collapsing heavily onto cold marble. Senators scatter hurriedly, fear overcoming hatred. Silence engulfs the chamber eerily, broken only by your ragged breathing and trickling blood-staining polished floors. Life ebbs swiftly, memories flooding painfully, conquests, triumphs, friends, lovers, regrets. Rome's greatest leader lies dying, abandoned, betrayed cruelly. Strength fades, darkness descends inexorably. Your final breath escapes painfully. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, victor of civil war, dictator of Rome, dies alone on the Senate floor, a brutal, humiliating end. Outside, panic grips Rome. News spreads rapidly, Caesar assassinated, Rome plunged into chaos. Crowds gather fearfully, anger growing dangerously. Your murderers hope to restore Republic freedoms. Instead, civil unrest erupts violently, plunging Rome into deeper crisis. Your corpse lies unattended briefly, blood pooling, testament to betrayal's cost. Mark Antony, loyal friend and lieutenant, takes charge quickly. Grief-stricken yet politically shrewd, he displays your bloody toga dramatically during a public funeral. His fiery oration inflames crowds passionately, turning public opinion sharply against assassins. Rome demands revenge furiously, your killers flee swiftly, hunted viciously. Even dead, your influence remains unmatched. Yet power struggles emerge swiftly. Antony vs aggressively with young Octavian, your adopted heir, for control. Rome plunges deeper into turmoil, another civil war looming. Your death, intended to preserve Rome's republic, instead ignites violence, power struggles, further chaos. Rome suffers greatly, devastated by divisions your assassination unleashed tragically. Meanwhile, your funeral pyre burns brilliantly in Rome's forum, flames consuming your remains dramatically. Citizens weep openly, mourning deeply. Rome recognizes belatedly your greatness, mourning profoundly the tragic loss caused by short-sighted assassins. History remembers your death bitterly, as brutal betrayal destroying Rome's brightest hope for stability, peace, and greatness. But beyond grief lies profound reflection. Your assassination provides chilling warnings, dangers inherent in absolute power, tragic consequences when democracy falters, violence caused by political divisions unchecked. History studies your murder intently, analyzing betrayal's psychological complexities, political implications, profound costs to societies divided by hatred, fear, envy. Yet personally, your end remains deeply tragic. Despite immense power, wealth, accomplishments, you died betrayed by closest friends, abandoned cruelly in your final moments. Beneath ruthless ambition hid deep vulnerabilities, loneliness, insecurities, desires for respect, admiration, love never fully satisfied. Your assassination symbolizes tragically high personal cost ambition exacts, sacrificing relationships, morality, humanity itself for fleeting power, ultimately meaningless in death. Rome itself struggles profoundly afterward, torn apart by continued conflict your death ignited. Civil wars erupt repeatedly, ultimately leading Rome toward imperial monarchy, ironically. Your assassination, intended to protect republic freedoms, instead accelerated monarchy's rise inevitably. History observes bitterly this tragic irony, how assassins' misguided actions destroyed Rome's fragile democracy permanently. Yet, even centuries later, your death resonates powerfully. Societies worldwide study intensely your assassination's complexities, political, psychological, moral implications. Your life and death provide stark reminders of democracy's fragility, power's corrupting influence, profound human costs when ambition eclipses morality. Students learn vividly from your tragic fate critical lessons, importance of humility, moral integrity, democratic values, compassion. Your assassination, brutal and tragic, remains history's powerful cautionary tale. Julius Caesar, your violent death continues teaching humanity profound, timeless lessons, warnings about ambition's dangers, consequences of political division unchecked, importance democracy's preservation, necessity for leaders valuing morality above personal gain. This was your brutal, tragic assassination, the shocking betrayal ending your extraordinary life as Julius Caesar. You are dead. Your tomb is sealed. Your breath has left your body, but your shadow still stretches across the empire like a storm cloud refusing to pass. You thought you could rule forever, that your walls were tall enough, your soldiers loyal enough, your fear thick enough to hold it all together. But now, the man is gone, and the cracks can no longer be hidden. Your chosen successor, Fuzu, is dead by forged decree. Your true heir, strong in will and loyal to your ideals, is erased from the future by two men you trusted, Lai Si and Zhao Gao. In his place sits Hu Hai, your second son, a boy not a ruler, soft where he should be sharp, an echo of you, but without your voice, without your spine. He is given a new title, Qin Heir Shi, second emperor of Qin, but history barely remembers his name, because what you built to last 10,000 generations starts to crumble after just 2. Zhao Gao, the eunuch who helped orchestrate the coup, becomes the true power behind the throne, a master manipulator. He whispers in Hu Hai's ear, shaping his thoughts, controlling his decrees, twisting his paranoia. The same fear you once used to rule now poisons your court from within. But without your force, your precision, your vision, it becomes chaos. The empire you unified begins to fracture almost immediately. The people, drained by decades of forced labor, taxation, and surveillance, are done whispering. They start shouting, then marching, then revolting. It begins small. In 209 BCE, just a year after your death, 2 low-ranking officers, Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, fail to report to a post on time due to flooding. They know the penalty for lateness is execution, so they do something unthinkable: they rebel. It's a spark. But in your empire, where everything is dry and brittle, it becomes a wildfire. Peasant revolts erupt across the land. Former nobles rise up. Old enemies who once trembled at your name now see an opportunity to reclaim what was lost. And what's worse? The machinery of the Qin, so efficient under your hand, now breaks down completely. Your roads once carried your armies across the realm. Now they carry rebels. Your laws once brought order. Now they're used as justification for rebellion. And your Great Wall, it holds out invaders, but it can't hold an unrest. Inside the palace, Zhao Gao grows more paranoid. He suspects Li Si, your brilliant chancellor, of treason. He has him arrested, tortured, and executed. The man who once shaped your bureaucracy is now rotting in a ditch, his genius wasted, his loyalty unrewarded. Then Zhao Gao turns on Hu Hai. The puppet has served his purpose. In 207 BCE, the second emperor is forced to commit suicide. Another Qin ruler dead, not from foreign invaders, but from within the very halls of the palace. Zhao Gao installs a distant member of the royal family as a figurehead, but by then it's too late. The tide has turned, rebels breach the capital. The dynasty you founded, the one you poured your life and the lives of millions into building, falls in a single generation. The Qin dynasty, the first imperial dynasty in China, is over. 4 years, that's all it lasted after your death. And yet, your failure becomes your success. Because even as the dynasty crumbles, your vision endures. The chaos that follows your fall leads to a power vacuum, and eventually a new dynasty, the Han, rises. The Han emperors curse your cruelty, but quietly adopt many of your ideas. They keep your centralized bureaucracy. They continue using your standard scripts, weights, and measures. They repair and expand your roads. They even build on your Great Wall. They call you a tyrant, but they keep your skeleton. Because despite everything, despite your harshness, your book burnings, your crushing labor force, you did something no one else could. You turned chaos into structure. You transformed 7 warring kingdoms into one unified nation. You didn't just rule China. You created the idea of it. And over 2,000 years later, your name still carries weight, not as a myth, not as a symbol, as a real man. One with flaws carved in granite and achievements burned into the foundations of a civilization. Your tomb still lies hidden beneath a hill in Xi'an. Your terracotta army stands in rows, silent and eternal, staring into the darkness. Tourists shuffle by them now, staring into the faces of clay soldiers who were never meant to be seen, only to serve. No one has ever opened your burial chamber. Some say it's because of the traps, others say it's the rivers of mercury, some say it's because no one dares. And maybe that sits what you wanted, to be untouched, untouchable. To rule in death what you ruled in life, everything. This was your fall and your strange immortality. You didn't outlive death, but you outlived time. You are remembered not just as a king or a tyrant or a unifier. You are remembered as the first emperor.